We're back with more NFL coverage, and we have the Week 6 recaps. So to get straight into it, got to start out with the Eagles and the Giants on Thursday. And it honestly looked to go a totally different route than it ended up being, to be honest. Like the fact that they had one of the players get on the pregame interview and talk about the Giants, didn't want to be the team that allowed Saquon Barkley to get going because he hadn't had a 100-yard rushing game to start out the season yet. Tell me why this man rips off two big runs on the first two plays of the game as they automatically get into Giants territory, deep into it. Now, luckily for that defense, they held strong enough to force them to settle for a field goal, but it's like, if you allowed Saquon Barkley to continuously do that shit, you're going to have some problems. Luckily for them, though, I guess their special teams decided to show up. I don't know why Gunnar Olszewski was just getting some of the longest returns imaginable, but it did help them in terms of getting into plus territory more often than not. You shorten the field for Jaxson Dart in that offense. I mean, you're going to give yourself a higher likelihood to make something happen. And after a little bit of work, they got there. I don't know what it was about this Kelly Ringo matchup on LaJordan Humphrey, by the way, but throughout the entire night, that man could not guard him. He just constantly kept on getting burned by him. And it started here. I mean, LaJordan Humphrey just goes straight down the field, boxes him out, and mosses him for a 34-yard gain on third down to allow the Giants to get into even deeper territory for the Eagles and damn near the red zone. Now, they did get themselves into another third and long situation, but they kind of fucked up. I'm not going to lie. Like, Jaxson Dart can certainly run the football. That's been put on display more often than not in his starts so far. And they did decide to put a spy on him. It ended up being Zach Bond. The thing is, though, he played so far off of him that when it came time for him to get out in space, he was out of position. All it took from Dart was one slight juke, and Bond just completely froze up. You know, he's a great tackling linebacker, don't get me wrong, but he was not going to be that fast to keep up with Jaxson Dart while being backed off that far of him. So, with that dynamic touchdown run, the Giants would go up 7-3, and then the defense would force a 3-and-out before the Giants, shockingly enough, would get yet another score. Is Wan'Dale Robinson on this one drive alone would not only find open space in the slot, which is the one thing you shouldn't do while accounting for him. I mean, literally, nobody is guarding him at all. He just gets the easiest catch of his life. And then follows that up by just burning Andrew Emeka Sr. on a 35-yard gain. It ended up being relatively short, but he was able to change direction and just take off for a 35-yard touchdown catch. All of a sudden, the Giants are up 13-3 near the end of the first quarter. Like, what? But hey, in no time, the Eagles would respond and get back to their old ways. And yeah, I think some people didn't take too kindly to that. I mean, you were certainly happy to see A.J. Brown get this catch on the sideline for a 34-yard gain. And you would also have Jalen Hurts continue to throw the ball well, getting Dallas Goedert over the middle for a 23-yard one, before they continued to drive into Eagles, Giants territory here. There's something to this play that they keep doing with Dallas Goedert, though. I don't know. They get down to second and goal in a go-to-go situation, and they once more have Dallas Goedert out wide. Jalen Hurts drops back and throws a sweep pass to him. The blocking sets up perfectly, and he just bowls in for a touchdown. Like, multiple times now, they've just called this damn sweep play to him. But it has worked out, honestly. It essentially is an RPO play. And it seems to work best in short yardage. So I guess they're not going to be all too worried about changing that scheme up anytime soon once they get in there. And I mean, hey, it's a break from the norm, I guess. So there you go. Now, the Giants would actually suffer the wrath of the Eagles' defense as Zach Bond would stop with Jordan Humphrey just short on this third down before they would go 3 and out and punt. And then the Eagles, again, they got right back to it. I mean, Hurts was definitely uncorking some dots, don't get me wrong, but their specialty as a team, their strength as a team is in their rushing attack. And they would certainly make that clear after this. They ran the tush push after an incomplete pass headed Saquon Barkley's way, which honestly ended up being a good deflection by Javon Holland, rather. Because Saquon Barkley's not that big of a player. The way in which Jalen Hurts threw it, that was his best possible throw he could have made. And Holland just jumped the route perfectly. But you get in that situation, it's 3rd and 1 inside the 3-yard line. You know what time it is. They run the tush push. Jalen Hurts is stopped for no gain. But that ain't going to stop them. That ain't going to stop them. If anything, you shorten the distance by a matter of inches. They run it again, and Jalen Hurts gets it this time. 2 times might seem like enough, at least for most other teams that would have to guard it. But for the Eagles, who consistently run it, they wanted to go for a 3rd, and they would, with Jalen Hurts being stopped again for no gain. But again, all it did, because this was at the 1-yard line here, was cut it down by just a matter of some fucking inches. That didn't matter to them. They were going to run it again. And on the 4th straight tush push attempt, they got it. People were in such a fucking outrage about this. From that standpoint, when you're doing that many times in a row, it's like, okay, I can see a little bit why people would have some complaints about the play. Because it's like, geez, I mean, damn, you got to give somebody a break, right? But at the same time, again, I still don't have an issue with them running it. Definitely one of the wilder sequences you could have in that situation, though. The Giants would kind of get their own measure of revenge here, though, in time. I mean, they had a nice balance of running and passing on this drive here. Like, you would, ironically enough, once we got down to 3rd and 1 inside Philly's 6-yard line, Jaxson Dart himself would run a version of the tush push and pick up a 2-yard gain here. But hey, even with all that being said, it was Cam Skattebo who would punch it in for a 4-yard touchdown run to give the Giants the lead. And weirdly enough, they would take that into the end of the half, but not without a little bit of confusion. I mean, the Eagles looked to be in a really good spot. Like, even though there was 1 minute and 12 seconds left, they didn't have any timeouts. I mean, they got a good start to their drive. All they had to do was be strategic in terms of spiking the ball. I don't know what happened here. They fucked this up so badly. Like, they were pinned back on the 7-yard line, so you get that good run to start out, but then you just allow 39 more seconds to waste off before you even think about getting out of bounds. I didn't necessarily understand that. Then, to make matters even worse, Jalen Hurts could not complete a pass down the field. And before you knew it, it was 3rd down. They were about to line up. The play clock was running down. And for whatever reason, Brian Daboll decided to bail out the Eagles by calling a timeout. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's pretty fucking stupid. Like, you have all the momentum on your side right now. You have the Eagles already pinned back, and they were probably going to lose more yardage on a penalty. if it ends up being a delay of game. Why did you feel the need to bail them out right here? That didn't make a lot of sense in the moment. But of course, the Eagles on this particular night kind of self-sabotaged themselves as well. Because Jalen Hurts, granted, not much was open down the field, so I get it. But this man just decides to run the football up the middle and then slide, knowing that time is going to run out. So I guess it ended up being a non-story. But, man, the Giants, of all teams, were trying to pull off the upset. And, they need to have a strong second half to keep that going. But, hey, for the combination of Skattebo and Jaxson Dart in the rushing attack, they were doing some historical stuff already. In fact, both Skattebo and Dart were the first pair of rookie Giants with a rushing touchdown in the same game since 1980. And that was in the first half. So imagine how much more damage they could do in the long run as this game continued to go forward. Really interesting thing to note as well, the Giants wouldn't really open up the second half in the most promising of ways. But I was talking about all this damn potential chemistry between Theo Johnson and Jaxson Dart. Man, at this point in this game, I don't know what it was, but Theo Johnson could not locate the ball. Like, those two were not on the same page at all. There was a play earlier where Theo Johnson had his head completely turned around. Jaxson Dart already fires a slant, and then he just, again, at the very last second, when it's already too late, decides to try to turn his head around. By that point, the ball is already past him on what was an easy slant route. Then here, you get a great look against that Eagles secondary, and you just drop this shit. Put in a great spot for him to go catch it. Like, the big hands are there for a reason, and you just don't bring that down. It's a damn shame. But the Giants would manage to hold. Even though the goal was to pass, they would still do their best to establish the run. But Kayvon Thibodeau did a nice job of preventing Saquon Barkley from getting anything major here. The TFL definitely set them back. But it did almost get scary for this Giants defense because you were worried so much about accounting for the underneath route and trying to account for Saquon Barkley in the rushing attack that they left on third down Devontae Smith wide open. This is at the 11-yard line on their own side of the field here. And man, he just literally struck past every single defender on that team. If this would have been placed perfectly, that would have been an 89-yard touchdown. Instead, Jalen Hurts, with the pressure not even really getting in his face like that, he had a clean pocket and everything. So you had enough time to warm up into the throw and deliver a great enough ball for Devontae Smith to go get it. You want to tell me why this man overthrew him still? Despite, again, not facing any blitz, having as clean of a pocket as you can have as a quarterback. That shit was inexcusable. And, again, we know that that's just one play early in the third quarter, to be honest. But, man, after that shit, the Eagles were not truly able to settle into much else as an offense. It just felt so demoralizing, I guess, in that moment. It's like that should have and would have been a score. But for whatever reason, Jalen Hurts just misfired that, and they would punt it away. The Giants would make little time in terms of getting their own response going here. I guess a quick switch up would occur because they started to put LaJordan Humphrey on Adoree Jackson, or have Adoree Jackson guard him a little more. but you still had reps every now and then where Ringo would get on him. And again, every single time that happened, they just picked on him. Now, it didn't help that their rookie defensive lineman in Young would have a face mask penalty added on to the end of the Cam Skattebo run here. But also, they just throw it near Ringo in his direction. And he's called for a penalty on Jordan Humphrey. He's grabbing the shit out of him. And again, I'm like, how is it that this man can't guard him? Like, why would you continue to trust him up against him? It just doesn't make any sense. Nonetheless, we got into the red zone, and it was Cam Skattebo from there on out, just bowling all over people. And eventually, they got in from a yard out to give him yet another touchdown on the night. Both offenses would take it relatively slower, although the Eagles definitely could have continued to exploit this Dallas Goedert matchup on Cordell Flott. I don't know why they made the decision to do that shit, but hey, that's neither here nor there. And you would have Brian Burns, again, continue to wreak havoc on Jalen Hurts specifically. Like, I don't know if this sack specifically was the one or not, but man, when he sits up here and he calls himself Spider-Man, you better believe this shit. I mean, like, I think this was one from earlier. He literally just wraps around the tackle and just grabs Jalen Hurts, pulls him down. This one, he just, again, gets right through the pressure and just buries Jalen Hurts in the backfield to force the 3-and-out. Then you would have the Giants get their own turn, and while they would make a little bit of progress, they would eventually be forced to punt as well, unfortunately. More of the same for both offenses as they would open the fourth quarter going 3-and-out, and then this game completely flipped on its head. I mean, they started to get things going by just zoning in on Devontae Smith. Not only did he make a catch, but he drew a big penalty on new Giants addition Paulson Adebo. It looked like they were smooth sailing here. All they had to do inside Giants territory now and inside their red zone was just protect the football, and oh my fucking goodness, Jalen Hurts threw a terrible pass to the sideline. I think it was intended for Devontae Smith. And Cordell Flott, with the ball already underthrown, also just did a great job of jumping the route here. He picks him off and gets a great enough return on the interception to give the Giants a short field to work with. And same as the last drive, it took a few plays, but Cam Skattebo would get the same result, another 1-yard touchdown run for him to make for his third on the night and give the Giants a 34-17 lead, which would eventually end the game, seeing as A.J. Dillon would also fumble the football at the tail end. Wild ass shit. In no way would I have expected the Giants to pull that off. But man, that was a quality win to say the least. Like, I think some of the Giants fans are starting to believe a little bit. Like, the hope might actually be warranted because Jaxson Dart put together a hell of a performance. Truly. He went 17-25 for 68% completion and had 195 yards for the touchdown pass while also getting 58 yards on the ground and a touchdown run. It got so damn crazy to where he got concussed for a short period of time, and Brian Daboll was trying to make fucking sure that he was all good or get some kind of update on him being able to come back into the game. Because they pulled out Russ for a play and he said, nope, I'm not doing this shit again. I'm not having a repeat of this. Get Dart in the game or else. Turned out that might have been illegal. That was being investigated. I think it still is being investigated too. But again, by the end of the game, he was able to thug it out and lead the team to victory. Cam Skattebo also had a hell of a night. 19 rushes for 98 yards and 3 touchdowns to go along with 2 receptions and 12 yards. His 3 rushing touchdowns made him the second Giants rookie since Charlie Evans in 1971 to get 3 rushing touchdowns in a game. And as for Jaxson Dart, also, this is going to be freaky. The last Giants quarterback to win their debut matchup against the Eagles was Travis Tidwell in 1950. We know how old the Giants franchise is. The fact that you have gone almost 75 years or maybe even around that without having a quarterback in their debut start beat this team, that's a problem. And Giants quarterback actually drafted by New York. I'm sure there have been teams, or at least Giants players at the quarterback position who have managed to win their first ever start against the team, but there's a little bit of a clarification there. Because those players might actually not have been drafted by the Giants to do so. That's just, again, do you know how... that is just so crazy. Wan'Dale Robinson would step up big time, putting up 6 receptions and 84 yards for a touchdown, and LaJordan Humphrey, again, 4 receptions for 55 yards. Solid production, to say the least. As for the Eagles, man, I don't know how they're going to explain this one. And let's be honest, Philly fans, when you think about it from this perspective, are already having a tough time as it is. How the hell could you possibly explain losing this game? Seriously. Jalen Hurts, 283 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception on 72.7% completion from the field. He also had 13 rushing yards and a touchdown run. Saquon Barkley had 12 rushes for 58 yards. Dallas Goedert had 9 receptions for 110 yards and a touchdown. A.J. Brown had 6 receptions for 80 yards, and Devontae Smith had 4 receptions for 49 yards. Again, they got to figure this shit out. Saquon Barkley in this situation probably needed to make a lot more out of the carries that he did get, especially when you consider that he had 2 rushes for 31 yards in the first 2 plays. So, clearly, some craziness happened afterwards. He definitely stagnated. And again, you also have to give the front 7 credit. Dexter Lawrence II is an incredible fucking run stopper. And those lanes, not just from him, but also from other D linemen on this team, just clogged up quickly to where Saquon Barkley had no space. And that's exactly what you need to happen. Sure, you're not going to load up the box per se, but you've got to ensure that Saquon Barkley does not get a full head of steam. So you're going to do anything that you can in that situation to make it happen. And that is how the Giants ended up making that work. It definitely paid off for him if they can beat this team by 17 points. It's absolutely insane, man. All right, moving on to the Sunday action and starting that out with my Seahawks taking down the Jaguars. This game was definitely marked by more of a defensive output. I had to watch it in post because they didn't want to cut the damn game on live television. But anytime you're forcing Trevor Lawrence to get sacked 7 times as a defense, you're definitely doing something right. There were throws where it looked like he was settled in for a little bit, but that didn't happen all that much. Did the Seahawks force a takeaway? No. But they forced just enough pressure to make Trevor Lawrence uncomfortable in most situations, and honestly, that's what led to a few stops throughout the day. Also, again, they have to continue figuring this out as well. Similar thing here, although Travis Etienne Jr. might not be as dominant of a running back as Saquon Barkley is. They've been doing well this season in the rushing attack. That did not happen in this game, and that is also a testament to the way in which the Seahawks were tightening up on their front lines as well. For one of the top rushing offenses in the league in Jacksonville to be held to a combined 19 rushes for 59 yards, and Travis Etienne Jr. specifically be held to just 27 yards on 2.2 yards per carry is exceptional work. And establishing that stronghold would also be a key aspect of this game for the Seahawks and that defense. Because it forced Trevor Lawrence to have to drop back and pass more. I mean, the Jaguars in this situation, again, they are really in a bit of a situation here. Because, you're still trying to figure out whether or not you truly trust Trevor Lawrence to take over a game. I mean, he proved it to you last week. And granted, you might not be given much of a choice if your run game is being clamped up like this and they're not effective all game long. That would just be completely stubborn of them to continue running the ball, knowing that they are not getting an efficient amount of yards per carry to sustain that throughout an entire day of action. So the Jaguars will get a pass here. The Eagles, that is their identity, and they have consistently moved the ball down the field efficiently doing it. So I don't get the reasoning there, but I can understand it from the Jags' perspective. My thing is, even with that being the case, are you sure you want Trevor Lawrence to be throwing the ball 42 times? Even for me, noting how good the Seahawks defense was, that's a little bit questionable to say the least. And when you look at the numbers here, I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. is obviously going to get majority of the reps here. He had 8 receptions for 90 yards and a touchdown. Also, Tim Patrick did get a touchdown catch as well, which was pretty good. But you're just weirdly spreading the ball around to all these guys, and it wasn't really enough. Washington with 29 yards, Hunter Long with 2 receptions for 19 yards, Travis Hunter having just 4 receptions for 15, Johnny Munt and Bishal Tuten having 14 receiving yards, De'Ami Brown having 13, and then Lamont Allen Jr. having 10. It's just quite a weird distribution to me. I understand that. And again, a lot of them had to be dump-offs because when you're consistently getting in the backfield and pressuring a quarterback to that extent, they're not going to have time to settle in and get deeper passes down the field. For the most part, that's exactly how it went. For the numbers here, even though I didn't watch it live, shout out to Nick Bosa being tied for the team lead in tackles in this game with 9 and also having a TFL. Shaq Griffin also had 7 tackles in this game. DeMarcus Lawrence, had 5 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 TFLs. Absolutely a tremendous game from him. Leonard Williams had a half sack and 4 tackles. Byron Murphy II and Uchenna Nwosu with 2 and 1.5 sacks respectively are actually in the top 25 this season. When it comes to sacks in the NFL, Byron Murphy is top 15. Hey, they said he was struggling last season to generate pressure and actually log sacks. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case right now. And we'll get to who the number 1 guy in that category is. It's just absolutely insane. As for the Seahawks here, it just continues to be smooth sailing for the offense. Now, granted, again, you'd probably want to see him do a little more in the second half and convert a little more when it comes to getting possessions inside the red zone. That definitely was a struggle early on, but at the very least, they were still able to overcome that. And again, when your defense is that good enough to consistently buy you that time, you're not really in that much of a rush to do anything. Sam Darnold just continues to play exceptionally well. 295 yards for him passing and 2 touchdowns, though the completion percentage was lower, which you do have to give the Jags respect for as well. I'm not going to lie about that. He's usually far more accurate than that. So, hey, for at least a few moments in this game, they themselves are also able to exact that same kind of mentality. But not when it came to guarding up Jaxon Smith-Njigba. 8 receptions, 162 yards for the man, and a 61-yard touchdown catch. Just completely beating his man. Damn. Shit is wild. Not only with his contributions in this game did he now become the league leader in receiving yards after this week. And again, there's also another factor that plays into that, potentially, depending on how things go. But with that, Jaxon Smith-Njigba has now set the Seahawks franchise record for most receiving yards through the first 6 games of a season for a Seahawks receiver in history, passing up Tyler Lockett. It's actually wild, man. Not to be outdone, Cooper Kupp would get himself a 29-yard touchdown catch and have 40 overall on the day for his first score as a Seahawk. A.J. Bunner as well would have a 61-yard catch to essentially seal the deal. You know, by that point of the game, the Jags were starting to chip back into it a little bit, but once they got stopped here and punted the ball back, their chances of being able to get the ball back were certainly slim, and that made it even slimmer. A.J. Barner has just been so damn good as a tight end for this team. It's actually wild to say. And again, with that, both teams now even up at 4-2. The Seahawks getting ready for a Monday night bout next week. And I mean, the Jags as well shouldn't be too disappointed. Like, you know, they definitely needed to do a better job of handling Mr. Jaxon Smith-Njigba. But I don't know. As long as they just continue to have that defensive capability, because they're still one of the top defenses in the league, it's like, you know, you're going to be fine if you're them, to be honest. All right, moving on to the Ravens and the Rams, which is the game that they displayed over this one, which makes sense. You know, all the regional shit that goes into it, they're going to do that because it's a Ravens home game. So I understand that. But, man, oh, man. And to think that before I got into actually watching this game in full for a second, the Ravens had it. Not only did they take a field goal to take the lead here, but they also had Derrick Henry getting back to what he usually does. They had Joshua Carty continuing to fucking suck as he would miss a fucking field goal in this period. And it did get a little bad for them as Cooper Rush would do what he does and throw a pick. But they would also force a fumble on Matthew Stafford to get the ball right back. And then they would get the ball and open up the second quarter, but turn the ball over on 4th and 3 inside Rams territory. From there, it took a little bit of work, but they would get a field goal of their own. Now, ironically enough, Puka, as soon as they mentioned that he had not had a catch all game, he hadn't had a target all game leading up to this point in the second quarter, well, he would get a 5-yard catch on TJ Tampa Jr. Now, I don't know why the Ravens thought that they could get away with doing that for too long, but I guess you're not really in a situation you have much control over because you're that depleted at the cornerback position already. So it's like it's going to be difficult to really get a proper matchup in there. I understand that. That's fair. But then he'd also follow that up later on in the drive with another 23-yard catch, just getting it from a great pass from Matthew Stafford over the middle, and also just continuing to strong arm motherfuckers for extra yardage. But it would get a little bad for Puka, and I guess I'll just say it right now. So he jumps up to get this throw from Matthew Stafford. It sails incomplete. Marlon Humphrey is trying to engage him, and I guess he just falls down kind of awkwardly. He proceeds to try to get back up, but he's like hunched over, and then he just falls back down in apparent pain. So it's like, oh, that ain't good. You know, for as durable as Puka has been to go along with his historic start to his career, man, that's just something that you rarely see out of him. And he would get taken out of the game. He would get walked to the locker room. And you were hoping that it wasn't anything too serious. Well, per multiple reports yesterday, they state that Puka essentially had an ankle sprain. And they list him as questionable on Sunday for their next game against the Jags in London, ironically enough. They're not saying that he's going to miss a crazy amount of time, and thank goodness that they also mentioned that, like, this isn't going to be a long-term injury for him, because you want to see a player as good as he is playing. But I don't know. They're going to have to go through some crazy intensive work if they want him to still be on the team playing heading to London. I guess that they're going to prepare for it, but it's like, I don't know. That is going to take so much. I can't even deny that. They would have to settle for a field goal, though. But they would definitely be at a hindrance without Nakua for most of the rest of the game. I mean, he did try to get in for a few plays later, but, you know, it was only something like 6 snaps, so that wasn't too much. The Ravens would get it right back. And, once more, despite having some good progression down the field, once they asked Cooper Rush to pass, he just could not. One, that could be a skill thing, but two, the Rams are just a fucking terror up front. Like, we know this, all right? We know this. They didn't even have to get the craziest amount of pressure on Cooper Rush. All they needed was one man to scare him off consistently, and Cooper Rush will crumble. It's exactly what will go down here. Now, pretty weird sequence here. The Ravens would force a 3-and-out, but nearly bail out the Rams with LeJohntay Wester, the rookie from Colorado, fumbling the punt and giving it right back to the Rams. However, because of one stupid-ass motherfucker moving down the field as an ineligible man, they had to replay the down and back up an extra 5 yards. Now this time, LeJohntay Wester would redeem himself, getting a great and excellent return. To the point where the Ravens were at the Rams' 32-yard line. And this is at the 3-minute, 38-second mark of the second quarter. As long as they manage this possession well, they're going to come away with something. They're going to come away with something. They've got to come away with something. This is your chance to take a true lead in this game yet again. Go into the half with all the momentum imaginable. This drive was mostly Derrick Henry the whole time. And in fact, on first and goal, in goal-to-go territory, he picked up 3 yards. Now, my thing is this. When you're in that situation, even though they're going to try to load up the box, you trust Derrick Henry to get a yard. You do. Care to explain why they call back-to-back QB sneak style plays for Mark Andrews? Now, again, I know that they have high success rates on those, specifically on like 3rd and 4th downs and stuff. I get that. And while one here might have been okay, to run this shit back-to-back and for him to get stuff for no gain on both occasions is absolutely tough. And Nate Landman would be right in the mix of those tackles on both occasions. We'll get to his ass later. Because I don't know who the hell he was feeling like in this game, but fuck it. And so at that point, you let all that time go to waste too. John Harbaugh, weirdly, after this third one, because there was 1 minute and 2 seconds left before the second Mark Andrews sneak. How the hell did you get from 1 minute and 2 seconds left to then proceeding to call the final timeout of the half at 9 seconds? Now that's some bullshit. And to an extent, I do understand it if you're trying to ensure that the Rams do not get the ball back with enough time to move down the field at all. From that standpoint, it's smart. But at the same time, like, what exactly was your plan? Were you trying to kick the field goal? Were you trying to go for it? What were you trying to do? And again, I guess something must have been clicking in his head to tell him, hey, you trust Derrick Henry here. We're going to go for it. And so they do, but they proceed to dial up the worst play call imaginable. They have Derrick Henry run to the left as all of the defenders are crashing over to the left. All the linebackers, the D linemen take a one easy move past the blockers and get right into the backfield on the left side. They snuffed it out immediately, and he lost 2 yards. It's like, at that point, if you were going to call something that predictable, you were much better off just kicking the field goal there. Truthfully. It would have been better to have Derrick Henry run to the right or something. Maybe fake a pass to him, and then, again, get a flat route in the end zone for a score. That works all the time. Yet you wanted to settle for an HB stretch of sorts to the strongest side. It was weird. And the Ravens, even though some strides would be made later in the game, would never get as close to scoring again. You can also argue that one play, even though it wasn't the end-all, be-all when it came to miscues, man, that definitely changed how exactly this game ended up turning out. By itself. Man. It was fucking crazy. The Rams would proceed to open up the second half, getting a touchdown drive of their own, as Davante Adams himself would, again, necessarily be the number one here, with Nakua being out. That's a requirement. There was no debate about that. But you also had the rookie from Pitt in Kenyatta Mumpfield getting himself a few reps out here. And before you knew it, despite him, having an incomplete pass go his way on third down, on fourth down, the Ravens would give up some absolutely crazy. I ain't gonna lie, this effort from Kyren Williams while being guarded by Trenton Simpson was absolutely insane. They have fourth down. They have Kyren Williams run a wheel route of sorts out of the backfield, and he, with multiple steps on Simpson, just goes up. Because Matthew Stafford puts it in a place to where, okay, he's going to have to try to adjust to this somehow. He elevated, surprisingly, and managed to not only get the ball, but have multiple body parts touch the boundary, making that a complete catch. To add even more insult to injury, not only did he complete the catch, but he also drew a pass interference penalty, which didn't end up mattering since they got the conversion anyways. And I'm like, damn, that shit fucking impressed me. I'm not even going to lie to you. It did. And he promptly got the touchdown he deserved on the ensuing play. The Rams would also have a different short field to work with, and they just exposed the flat. Both of those plays were literally just fakes off of play action into easy flat routes for both Jordan Whittington and then Tyler Higbee for a touchdown. As a defense, how are you giving that up back-to-back? I'm not sure. But what matters even worse is that in between all of that, the Ravens themselves were actually getting some decent progress to go down the field. And yet on back-to-back drives, it would be Cooper Rush and Zay Flowers that fumble to give them those opportunities in the first place. And it's like, damn, dude. Like, there's just no way that you're failing to protect the football like this. Ravens would put together their finest defensive performance as a squad in the fourth quarter alone. I mean, they got yet another decent field to work with, the Rams did, and yet once it came down to them getting in Baltimore's red zone, Buchanan and Simpson actually did a good job of holding up Matthew Stafford here. They got damn close to picking up this first down, but they didn't allow it. Though, for the Rams' perspective, I was like, why do you feel the need to go for it? You could just take a field goal here. You didn't have to do that. The Ravens had a decent chance to respond, but they took too long to move the ball down the field. They decided to put Tyler Huntley in the game, and they would see a little bit of progress, but the fact that this drive still took 9 minutes and 46 seconds, and they didn't come away with anything, by the way, because they also would pressure Tyler Huntley into oblivion. Like that fourth down would see him just throw the ball out of bounds completely, not in the vicinity of any wide receiver, because he didn't have the room to fire such a pass off. Absolute shame. And honestly, the last two possessions would see them again continue to trade a punt, and then the Ravens would have yet another turnover on downs, despite trying their absolute hardest to get some kind of score out of vanity here. Like, yeah, the Rams did win 17-3. That's what the numbers say. But man, between the fumbles, between the coaching miscue from John Harbaugh, it felt way worse than that. It felt way worse than that. Like the Rams, again, once all that shit happened, they just took complete control of the game. As for the numbers, Matthew Stafford had 181 passing yards and a touchdown on 65.4% completion. And his numbers in this game also made him pass up, or at least become the player with the ninth most passing yards in NFL history, rather. So that's definitely a great accomplishment to have. Kyron Williams would have 50 rushing yards and a touchdown, and also 37 receiving yards on 2 catches. Tyler Higbee had 4 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown, and Devontae Adams had 4 receptions for 39 yards and a touchdown. While Nakua, when he was healthy, had 2 receptions for 28. Also, fucking Nate Landman. Again, those who aren't really watching football all that much probably have no idea of who this guy is. And yet this man became the Ram with the most tackles in a game since 2000. With 17 and 8 solo tackles. Like, what? What the fuck? Oh my goodness. Now again, when you're constantly keeping everything short and you're not stretching the field, tackles for, I guess, different positions are going to be more likely. But still, that means that you are always right near the action, or at least you're forcing it at times. Getting far out of your zone to go ahead and handle that responsibility. And that's definitely great stuff, but I don't think that's something that he will replicate. I can tell you that right now. Nonetheless, it's good to have that in your back pocket. As for the Ravens, the passing game isn't much to speak of. But you figured that was going to be the case. And honestly, Derrick Henry, when it comes to that perspective, he did his job, man. 24 rushes for 122 yards. Definitely a great performance from him. But when it came to a situation like that, 4th and goal near halftime, that's where you should value him the most. And yet, in that situation, you did not put him in the best position to succeed. You've got to try to give the ball to your best players. And why, if you had been giving him all these rushes, did you not give him one when it mattered the most? Or at least continue to let the offense run through him in that situation? Probably would have fared much better in this game. Zay Flowers would have 6 receptions for 46 yards, and the Ravens themselves would put together such an abhorrent performance then. Obviously, they're still on their worst current record through this time of the season since their 2015 year, which they don't want to remember all that much. And they've also, in this game, put together their second fewest points in a home game. The fewest ended up being 0. Like, man, again, definitely tough when you think about it. From my perspective, I said that they needed to win at least one of these games. And yet the Ravens, with a few self-imposed mistakes, but also just terrible play overall, don't even come close to making that happen. Now, again, though the Bears should be a solid opponent to face off against, man, you're putting Lamar Jackson in such a rough spot. He's got to battle all the way back and then some just to get this team back into playoff contention. And I'm like, that is exactly what you did not want to happen. But they don't have a choice now. They don't have a choice now. Moving on to the Browns and Steelers. Man. Now, I did get into this late, I will admit. But, oh my gosh. Like, man, I don't know where to start in this game. Hey, at least they're starting to trust Caleb Johnson again. I mean, when I got in here, he got the ball a little bit and managed to lead them down the field for just enough time. But Jaylen Warren is still the running back 1 for a reason. Like, that man, again, despite the frame, continues to just bowl over people and make them pay for even trying to tackle him at every single turn. It's wild stuff, to say the least. Before you knew it, Chris Boswell would kick another field goal here. Was there really anything to speak of from this Browns offense? Like, oh my goodness. The fact that Cam Robinson was traded to this team to help the issue in terms of solving this problem of protecting quarterbacks. Yet damn near every rep that I saw of Robinson out there in this stretch of the game, that brother was allowing everything to get past him. How is it that you're constantly getting exposed this much? Not only did TJ Watt get back in the backfield to just, oh my goodness, like demolish Dillon Gabriel, because that's what constantly happened. Derek Harmon, his Oregon teammate just last season, would combine to do the same thing. Now the Steelers would get the ball back following that inevitable punt. And from there, it was the DK Metcalf show. Now this shit, I'm not gonna lie to you, this did get me like completely like fucked up. Like earlier in this game as I was watching it, they had the nerve to call Tyson Campbell a good man-to-man corner. And if that genuinely would have been the case, he would still be a Jaguar right now. Why do you think they moved on from him? I'm not going to sit up here and question, because again, it's Ian Eagle and JJ Watt on the call. So you can't question those guys per se, but it's like, yo, there's no fucking shot that y'all gonna sit up here and call that man a good man-to-man cornerback when he's just been traded to this team for a reason. That's all I'm saying. Okay. They got the ball back, and, Dillon Gabriel would make some decent progress. But even with him getting a couple catches to Jerry Jeudy, allowing him to get going, Derek Harmon buried him again, and then Alex Highsmith also got back here to get himself a piece of the action as well. It was also weird because, for every single offensive line lapse in judgment that would be made, Dillon Gabriel himself wasn't completely absolved the blame. He did have some terrible reads here. He did make some truly questionable throwing decisions. But again, at that point, he's definitely got a lot of shit running through his mind. He's just trying to survive to see the damn snap following this. That's all at this point. So I can't really put that on him here. It took a lot of fucking work just to get down there. But before you knew it, with Harold Fannin Jr. getting himself a few opportunities to move the chains as well, and David Njoku always being reliable, the Browns, despite all of the ugliness, would manage to get on the board with an Andre Schmidt field goal to make it 9-3 at the half. Absolutely wild. All right, we get into the third quarter, and it's just more of the same stagnation from this Browns offense. Or the Steelers would start to find it. And hey man, Aaron Rodgers again just getting surgical with it. They mentioned how quickly he was getting the ball out, and again, that makes sense. Aaron Rodgers at this state of his career, you don't want him to constantly be trying to move around outside the pocket. Even though there was a good play here, to come, where he just extended the play spectacularly. I'm not going to lie. But we'll get to that. Regardless, you'd have a bailout on this possession. I mean, the fact that they did get an initial stop, and then you have one of your guys running into the damn kicker, that's always going to hurt for a special teams unit. And that would end up immediately happening. You have Johnny Smith again get himself at least a touch in this offense because this is Arthur Smith we're talking about. You know he's going to try to find a way to get him going. But Jaylen Warren himself would also convert before DK Metcalf took a short route and got a 25-yard gain out of it. Before you knew it, the Steelers were in the red zone. And Aaron Rodgers, man, vintage fucking throw right here. He just slings one over right past Ronnie Hickman, the Ohio State man, unfortunately. But in the tightest window imaginable, zips it over to Connor Hayward, and he managed to haul it in for a 12-yard touchdown catch to give the Steelers the 16-3 lead. Browns would have a decent drive. Not gonna lie. Again, Fannin Jr. would get himself an 18-yard gain here, which is cool. But in cases like this, touchdowns are your best way to respond. They would only settle for a field goal yet again, which meant getting in another 53-yarder, unironically. Then the Steelers would manage to get it going again. Roman Wilson would get himself a catch on this drive after a few Kenneth Gainwell runs. And then really this game was the overall emergence of Darnell Washington as a receiving threat, per se. I don't know. Teams will just typically expect him to be a blocker. That's what he was drafted for from Georgia. But he started out the game getting a huge chunky yardage. And I think he might have set a career high in terms of receiving yards in this one game alone. That wouldn't change with that 14-yard catch. And then Aaron Rodgers said, fuck it. DK Metcalf is down there somewhere. Threw him a fucking touchdown pass. And on none other than fucking Tyson Campbell. But he's a man-to-man cornerback who's going to give wide receiver fits. Yeah, right. Fuck no, man. DK Metcalf tied a career high streak as well, I believe, with 4 straight games with at least a touchdown catch as well. So that's pretty cool when you think about it. Not gonna lie. As for the Browns here, you just, man, like 18 plays and 54 yards. Now at this point, this was desperation time, but man, you just hate to see it. They continue to allow Dillon Gabriel to drop back. And again, at this point, you're already down by multiple possessions. You know that running isn't really going to be the answer all the time in a case like this. So you're going to try to get down there as quickly as you can to score. I understand it. And yet still, even with that in mind for them, that is far from what happened. You took 5 minutes off the clock again, having to scrape out yardage for conversions. You were not getting these gains comfortably at all. And you have to credit the Steelers defense for making it incredibly hard on them. And again, taking advantage of Dillon Gabriel's lack of NFL experience. And the weak O-line play from the Browns as well. Because all that comes into account. You know, like, even though it looked rough for Dillon Gabriel, and it looked rough for him. But there's only so much he can do if you're not getting the proper support that you would need in a situation like this. It did hurt even worse when Gage Laberdane, one of their wide receivers here, did get illegally hit by Joey Porter Jr. Like, I don't know why the fuck he decided to hit him like this. Damn near target him, to say the least. And I'm like, there's no room for that shit. That cannot happen. They would get into the red zone, but would soil that opportunity despite having 7 different shots at scoring a touchdown. But once Nick Herbig not only getting a few deflections on Dillon Gabriel in this game, but also managing to sack him here, getting him in the backfield, they would settle for a field goal yet again. That was essentially the game. I mean, yes, weirdly enough, Chris Boswell would kind of whiff on the landing. Definitely lost his footing a little bit, and it caused a missed kick. Rare for him, but at that point, they could get away with it. The Browns had already turned the ball over on downs, and they would do it again in what would become a 23-9 win for the Steelers. Didn't have to be pretty the entire game for them, especially with the way their defense played, but a win is a win. Fuck it. For the numbers, Aaron Rodgers had 235 passing yards on 70% completion and 2 touchdowns. Jaylen Warren had 52 rushing yards and 11 carries, and DK Metcalf had 95 receiving yards on 4 carries and a touchdown, while Darnell Washington had 3 receptions for 62 yards. It should be noted that the Steelers had a massive amount of drops in this game too, so that percentage, the yardage, could have been even higher than it already was. Fucking wild, man. Deshaun Elliott had 12 sacks. 12 tackles. Holy shit. Jalen Ramsey had a career-high 2 sacks, though, and 6 tackles with 2 TFLs. TJ Watt had a half sack in 2 pass deflections. Derek Harmon had a sack. Alex Highsmith had a half sack, and Nick Herbig had 2 sacks, 2 TFLs, and 2 tackles with a pass deflection. Just an all-around great effort from that overall defense. And it made the Browns look even more atrocious than they usually are. They don't have a run game to speak of right now, or at least it wasn't existent today. Just 65 yards as a team and 3.8 yards per carry. I will never get the job done. And it just puts even more pressure on Dillon Gabriel, who not only had to suffer through 6 sacks in this game, but also threw 52 passes as a rookie and finished with just 4.2 yards per carry. The epitome of lockdown defense. It just made things incredibly rough for him. That is definitely not a good game, to say the least. But what more could you truly expect out of him when the weapons around him aren't producing like they should be, especially on that offensive line? Like, at the very least, you'd expect those guys to hold up just enough so he can get a solid read going. And then whenever he would find it, ball got dropped by somebody. Or again, the defense countered it with a good deflection of there. It's just a really tough spot to be in. And, in that situation, I think the Browns would panic. But it's important to not do that. It's important to not go that route. Because, that would just be feeding into the cycle they've consistently had, honestly, since they've been reinstated with quarterbacks, man. They've got to understand, in some capacity, that this is not solely a Dillon Gabriel thing, even though it was naturally going to be rough for him to start out. There are other problems that need to be fixed on that team. And again, you thought they were going to be solved by getting a guy like Cam Robinson, and that absolutely wasn't. Harold Fannin Jr. would have 7 receptions for 81 yards, and Jerry Jeudy would have 5 receptions for 43 yards as well. Moving into a little bit of bonus coverage between the Panthers and the Cowboys, and oh my fucking goodness, okay. Man. Now I'll focus on the bonus coverage aspect of this because they took me in essentially on the Panthers' last drive, or would-be last drive here. And we got down to a crucial 3rd down where McMillan was targeted, but Bryce Young missed him. Then you get to 4th down and 4 inside Dallas territory. And again, they're taking their time a little bit trying to get their play right, which makes sense. Now, once they got set up on the line, I call myself saying, I know that they're going to give the fucking ball to Hunter Renfrow. I see Hunter Renfrow out there. I know he's getting the ball. And what do you know? They put him on a slant. He gets the leverage. Bryce Young throws a damn good short pass, might I add. And Hunter Renfrow picks up the first down. The walking first down himself continues to be a good enough presence for this Panthers team as a veteran. An established veteran in this league. And that made all the difference. From there, man, Rico Dowdle and Trevor Etienne get solid runs on 3 different plays here to just force the usage of all the remaining timeouts from Dallas, as the Panthers, could just run the clock down from there. And before you knew it, with 3 seconds left, a kicker by the name of Ryan Fitzgerald would manage to get the game-winning field goal to give the Cowboys a 30-27 loss. Like, what? And I'm like, just how? Tracking this the whole time? I'm like, there's no fucking way that the Panthers are actually about to pull off this thing and win the fucking game. Like, what? Are we being serious right now? And that is absolutely what ended up happening. But there is certainly, McMillan, of course, with his 2 touchdown catches, is not to be denied here in this situation. You have to give him his respect. 29 yards isn't a lot per se, but he definitely found the end zone. You got to give credit to Rico Dowdle. He literally defecated on his former team. Quite literally. Belt the ass on them by himself. We're talking about a man who not only had 30 rushes for 183 yards in this game on an efficient 6.1 yards per carry, but he also had 4 receptions for 56 yards and a receiving touchdown from Bryce Young. We're talking about a combination of 239 scrimmage yards on 34 touches, which, the amount of scrimmage yardage, is actually a Panther record all time. It is also the most scrimmage yards in NFL history for a player in their first game against their former team. And Donald also became the first Panther to post 200 or more yards from scrimmage in back-to-back games. Bryce Young also had 68% completion and 199 yards and 3 touchdowns with an interception. Honestly, with that last drive, I'm not gonna lie, he put together some solid work in this game. The progression is getting there. It's getting there. It's not all the way there yet. It's still gonna take some time. But, you're starting to see why the Panthers invested all that they did in him. And again, it's not going to be the most eye-popping numbers, but the wins are coming. And the Panthers, struggling to get wins all season last year, they're already 3-3. That's a massive improvement. So you have to give them credit here. But man, the Cowboys defense, man, it is everything that I continue to say. There's so much wrong with the team. And yet Jerry Jones was so willing to get fucking Micah Parsons out of there. It's literally this as simple as this. Yeah, you traded away Micah Parsons saying that you could stop the run better if you get different personnel in here. Okay, you get different personnel in here. You allow Rico Dowdle, a former player of yours, single-handedly to gash you on the ground, and the team as a whole had 216 rushing yards on 5.7 yards per carry. So, again, what the hell can you do on defense? Because you're not going to rush the passer anymore without Micah Parsons. That's been proven. You can't stop the fucking run. You clearly can't stop the fucking run. You can't stop any team from doing anything. And then you yourselves can't even establish the run. They had just 31 yards on 1.6 yards per carry. And again, how do you expect to win a game like that? When you cannot buy a fucking stop at all. Dak Prescott, at least, continues to play well, and that's the thing. That is just so damn tough. Like, none of this is on him. It is all because of the trash defense. Like, you're expecting Dak Prescott to, again, go out there and figuratively pitch a perfect game every single week, because you have to score more than 30 points per just to beat these damn teams. We're talking about the fucking Panthers here, man. Like, he went for 261 yards and 3 touchdowns on 73.5% completion, while George Pickens himself also had a hell of a day, stepping up in the absence of CeeDee Lamb and also not having Kevontae Turpin out there. 9 receptions and 168 yards with a touchdown catch for him as well. It's like, how much more can you possibly ask Dak Prescott to do? He did fine. And yet, whatever is going on with this defense is still going to sink them under and prevent them from truly being able to make it into a postseason run. It's actually fucking crazy when you think about it, man. Damn shame. Alright. The 49ers would take on the Buccaneers on CBS at the 4:25 slot. So we're moving into that next. Man, it was decent. It was decent for the 49ers, but real quick, shit would get rough. They did manage to get a stop, but very quickly that was followed by Mac Jones getting lurked by Kendall Vildor for an interception. I mean, the Bucs is short territory to work with. They were certainly going to lean on Rachaad White in the absence of Bucky Irving, and he himself would punch it in for a 2-yard touchdown run. Now, the 49ers would get some good progress to go. Man, the Mac Jones and Kenny Bourne connection has just been automatic to this point. Like, we are talking about a person who had been struggling to get 100-yard receiving games all for most of his career, despite being serviceable. Yet he got that career high performance last week, and he started out this game getting a fucking 41-yard catch on a fucking laser from Mac Jones down the field. Just a little in-breaking route, and he just skips right over to the right side of the field, getting himself a little bit more extra yardage on the play to just strengthen the 49ers' chances at scoring on the possession. And they would be stuffed relatively short, with Mac Jones again feeling the wrath of Vita Vea. But Pinheiro would manage to get a 52-yarder in, something that Jake Moody could not wish to do in his sleep. He will become important later. Oh, man. Unfortunately as well, around this same exact time, and as the 49ers would force the Bucs to go 3-0, man, we get some tough news, because Fred Warner, on the last drive at least, suffered an injury, and, they took him off the field. They tried to get an x-ray going to see what was happening, and he would later be ruled out for the game. And then even worse would ensue in terms of that news, to get into one of the developments here. Unfortunately, for the 49ers, Fred Warner is going to be out for the rest of the season with an ankle injury. And that is damn tough for a player as great as he is. Even with the winners being able to make a few plays on this ensuing possession, having Fred Warner out there elevates them tremendously. And without him, it is going to be tough for them for the rest of the year to navigate as a defense. You already saw glimpses of it in this game. Between the football IQ and the natural intensity that he brings on defense, man, he has been nothing but an absolute weapon since the moment he stepped into the NFL. And they also mentioned as well that this isn't Fred Warner's first rodeo with injuries. He played all of last season having a broken part of his body and missed only like 4 games or something like that. So he's definitely tried to soldier through these things before. But I guess when it came down to it, this ankle injury was not something that he could try to play around with. And so from there, he's just got to take that time to rest and recover in his own space. Certainly a tough outcome here. At the very least, both defenses were all right enough to where they managed to force back-to-back punts as well. Also, it's tough because it's like Egbuka on back-to-back downs on this Bucs possession that ended in a punt. Man, he was open, and yet Baker Mayfield, surprisingly, just completely threw the ball behind him on both occasions. Like, Egbuka, with as much space as he had, he shouldn't have had to adjust in the way that he did. But it was all good, I guess. And hey, I mean, Michael Williams as well would get some good pressure on the next few plays to prevent Baker Mayfield from making some magic happen. The 49ers would get the ball back, and Kendrick Bourne would take, again, yet another deep pass for even more yardage down the field, this time for a 56-yard gain. I'm like, what? He's just got the leverage on the inbreaker yet again, and he just scampered right out for another huge play. From there, it was the Christian McCaffrey show. Now, McCaffrey, as they mentioned on like one of the graphics, is the only player in NFL history with at least 60 rushing yards per game and at least 40 receiving yards per game as well. Just another way to tell you how versatile of a running back he truly is and how great he is as a dynamic back today. Like, it is insane to think about. And the rest of this drive would see him get a good amount of reps here, despite Mac Jones's weird efforts here. Like, there was a situation where he tried to improvise. It ended up looking a little funky, but before you knew it, Brian Robinson Jr. did get himself a couple of yards here. And from there, Christian McCaffrey would punch it in for a 1-yard touchdown run to give the 49ers a 10-7 lead. But the Bucs would quickly respond. You know, Emeka Egbuka would get himself a better catch here and a better throw from Baker Mayfield to pick up the first down. Then it was just a Cade Otton show in the flat because they weirdly didn't want to have anybody account for that. And once they got inside the red zone, even though Rachaad White was the main guy, it would be the stud from last year and Sean Tucker getting in for a 9-yard touchdown run to give the Bucs the lead right back. Now the 49ers would drive back down the field themselves with Marquez Valdes-Scantling actually reining in a pretty tough catch within the seam. And while they did pick up a few more yards, once Marquez Valdes-Scantling got targeted again, Tyke Smith hit him so damn well to where it jarred the ball loose, even though he kind of had it on the sideline. And it's like, that is a textbook deflection in that spot, to say the least. He was right behind him. It's not like he was out in front of the ball or anything. You had no choice, but it jarred it loose, and from there, the Bucs would be down by, well, the Bucs would be up by 1, rather. Now, Perfect execution on this 2-minute drill, by the way. Perfect execution on this 2-minute drill. Absolutely great work for them. They, at this 2-minute and 5 mark, had all their timeouts, and the 2-minute warning was still kicking in here. But they didn't have to waste any time at all. They didn't really feel compelled to utilize any one of them. Rachaad White would get some huge gains. Cade Otton would get out in the open. And then you would have Tez Johnson get a ball coming his way. Ended up being thrown incomplete. But it was all good. Because still, you're at the 34-yard line now. As Mayfield's continuing to carve up this defense. You're driving. You still have all 3 of your timeouts and about 55 seconds left. That's not a bad spot to be in either. This is exactly where having Fred Warner in this case would be a great help to them. This man would have definitely called out a look like this. Because once Cameron Johnson went into motion, there was nobody on him. And you can imagine how that went. Now, they sent the blitz, but fuck it. You know, Baker Mayfield had enough time to load up the pass. Still a beauty, and Cameron Johnson just ran right under it. Walked into the end zone, untouched, for a 34-yard touchdown catch to give the Bucs the lead right back just before the end of the half. Now, they didn't get the 2-point conversion, but they would still hold the lead. The 49ers would cut into it just a little bit, though, as Demarcus Robinson would get himself 44 total yards on this drive to put the 49ers in field goal range. And with that, Eddie Pinheiro would kick in the 42-yarder to make this a 4-point ball game at the half. With that touchdown pass to Cameron Johnson, though, Baker Mayfield would get even closer to making a little bit of history in this regard, though. Nevertheless, the 49ers would have a chance to open up the third quarter, taking the momentum, and to be honest, they took up most of the third quarter, more than half. They got methodical gains down the field to continuously run down time. And while Kendrick Bourne had proven to be a threat, this miss on third down would prove to be a little tough. Mac Jones definitely had Kendrick Bourne here, but it was too small of a window for Jones to fit it in, as Jacob Parrish would actually manage to get a deflection in this situation and force the 49ers to kick yet another field goal. But at the very least, they were within one. Baker Mayfield, within this drive alone, would kind of display to you why he's an MVP. Because, man, this damn run on third down and long, again, was Mahomes-esque. The brother breaks out of a fucking combo sack from Jay Huff and another backer. Alright? He's scrambling up the field. He pump fakes the guy out. Stiff arms a man. Alright? At this point, he's getting closer and closer to picking up the first down. And then, while being tackled, he reaches his fucking arm over the line and gets the first down to extend the drive for the Bucs. And within just a few plays, you have Baker Mayfield get back on showing you just how great he is as a thrower of the football. Because with Tez Johnson running this route, once he saw that there wasn't really any safety help back there, he just continued to keep on streaking. And Mayfield uncorked the fucking dime down the field. Now, it was a little further out in front of Tez Johnson, but no worries. Not only did he run right under it, but he dove out for the fucking beautiful diving catch. And got a 45-yard touchdown for his first NFL score as a wide receiver. Mayfield also with this touchdown would manage to become the third quarterback ever to reach at least 80 touchdown passes in their first 40 games with a new team. The other two would be Brady and Manning, because of course. But that's good history to be a part of. Actually wild, man. Alright, this fourth quarter would be a little bit weird. I mean, I don't know. It felt like the 49ers had a few chances every now and then. But before you knew it, Levante David was crashing into the backfield and sacking Mac Jones to give the possession back to the Bucs. And then the Bucs, despite them making their own progress, just feeding the hell out of Sean Tucker and Sterling Shepard getting a damn nice catch on the Oklahoma connection with none other than Baker Mayfield. Not to mention as well, Shepard pulled out some moves after this, getting a couple cool little cutbacks in and managing to get a damn 36-yard gain out of it. Shit was wild. It put them deep into San Francisco territory eventually. But for whatever reason, because McLaughlin always seems to be due for at least one of these, he missed. And from there you're thinking, oh, okay, well, the 49ers have a little bit of a chance to respond. And while that could happen, man, even with Vita Vea bailing them out by running into the kicker, there just wasn't much that the 49ers could do here. They did try. They tried to score, believe me. But Jamel Dean would eventually put the game on ice, working Mac Jones into another boneheaded interception. And from there, with the Bucs managing to drive down themselves, almost nearly fumbling it away, and man, that would happen to somebody. With Rachaad White losing the football, I mean, hey, you still had them get off enough time, essentially the 2-minute warning here, and they would kick the field goal, essentially ending the game right there, with the Bucs winning 30-19. Hey, for one time at least this season, they can say that they didn't have to worry about a game coming down to the wire. And again, that's a bit of a relief given the way that they've started out their season to this point. All right, for the numbers, Baker Mayfield would go 17 of 23 passing for 256 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rachaad White had 65 rushing yards and a touchdown run, rather. And Cameron Johnson had 4 receptions and 64 yards and a touchdown. Tez Johnson had the 45-yard touchdown catch, of course. Cade Otton had 5 receptions for 51 yards, and Sterling Shepard also had 2 receptions for 51 yards. Should note as well that Emeka Egbuka was dealing with like a hamstring injury of some kind, so he was taken out of the game, and his availability for the next game is also up in the air right now. You hope that he can get healthy, though. Like, the man is just such a great fucking player, receiver already, man. You really hate to see him go down like that at this time. But we'll see how they manage it. If it does have to get into a long-term sort of replacement situation. As for the 49ers, Mac Jones completed 69.2% of his passes for 347 yards and 2 interceptions, while Christian McCaffrey had a combined 111 yards on 24 touches and a touchdown run. Kendrick Bourne, in shorter capacity, would put together his first consecutive back-to-back 100-yard game stretch in his career. This is his third ever 100-yard game in his career. And he also managed to get 142 yards again, this time on just 5 catches. What kind of craziness is going on? But you know what? The 49ers, they've got to take it. With as depleted as their receiving core is, they need all the production that they can get from that unit, truly. And Bourne is just providing that for them right now. That goes a long way, even if they didn't win this game here. Jake Tonjes also had 6 receptions for 58 yards, and DeMarcus Robinson had 2 receptions for 44 yards. Wow stuff. Definitely tough for the 49ers and Bucs when you consider the injuries that took place here. But man, hey, the Bucs keep it rolling anyways. This has been the case for them the entire season. Even though, again, they didn't have to come from behind and have a one-score game to win here, man, they have consistently found a way to get in the W column. No matter what is going on, no matter what adversity they're facing, they are constantly finding the loophole. It's like, damn, you have to respect that. I don't know how much longer it will uphold, though. I mean, they have some pretty good competition on Monday Night Football next week in the Lions. And oh my goodness, like that is going to be a tremendous game. Certainly was when they played each other in the 2023-24 playoffs. Like that should be some tremendous gameplay right there. I'm not going to lie. All right. Moving on to the Lions and Chiefs. Speaking of, wow. Man. Hey, the Lions would try to set the tone early, getting a good balance of the run and the pass in on this drive. And for a while there, it was looking like they could certainly take all the momentum, all the air out of Arrowhead Stadium. I mean, before you knew it, this drive saw about 9 minutes and 36 seconds rip off the clock. And they were driving. Slowly but surely, they got into a goal-to-go situation. And before you knew it, Jahmyr Gibbs would be stuffed for just 1 yard, forcing a 4th down. Well, you know what Dan Campbell is going to do in that situation. On what was already the 3rd longest opening drive in the season, they decided to risk it all. And you saw David Montgomery take a wildcat and throw the ball over to none other than Jared Goff, actually being in a bit of a contested situation with McDuffie trying to guard him and Amon-Ra St. Brown also blocking McDuffie here. He bobbled the ball around a little bit and managed to pseudo-moss McDuffie by catching the ball anyways and getting in for a touchdown. Or so we thought. As cool and as wacky of a play as that was, they ruled it illegal because apparently Jared Goff wasn't set at the time. And they would try, believe me, even with Jared Goff dealing with that, they would try it again, or at least give off the impression that they were going to do it. But they would settle for the field goal with Jake Bates to take the first score of the game. The Chiefs themselves, man, they started to figure it out, man. I mean, the rushing game was solid, but the connection to the wide receivers was intact, man. Kelsey was already getting himself a good look in the game. Juju Smith-Schuster ripped off a damn 30-yard game, just implementing all the catching after the run. And, I mean, Mahomes himself would manage to extend the play for long enough to get into a 4th and technically not goal situation, but technically inside the 6-yard line. They had another crucial 4th down attempt here. And again, in the same way that Dan Campbell can be aggressive, well, Andy Reid has certainly proven that in calculated spots, he'll be just as aggressive. You trust a quarterback like Mahomes in these situations, and that would pay off here. as Mahomes would not only get an excellent rub route in the flat to Xavier Worthy for a touchdown, but that would also mark the 300th touchdown pass of his career, and that made him the fastest by 8 games over Aaron Rodgers to get to that number, which is also, again, an incredible accomplishment for a quarterback to have. Like, we know that Mahomes is on a Hall of Fame trajectory, but, man, the stuff like that just reaffirms it. Weirdly enough, Harrison Butker would miss this field goal for some reason. I don't really understand. I don't understand how that happened, man. It was so strange. The Lions would waste no time responding themselves, though, as they would manage to move down the field well enough, with Laporta just getting a nice little dom from Jared Goff over the middle, adding in a little hurdle as well to avoid getting tackled low. Y'all also have Jameson Williams get hit up on a little bit of a shorter route from Jared Goff here. And again, I just don't know why teams continue to give Jameson Williams this kind of space. You know he's a burner. All he had to do in that situation, he got the little route to go, and afterwards, all he had to do was utilize his speed to get in the end zone from there. It literally took nothing for him. And after that lead, both teams would get incredibly aggressive after some promising drives here. You would have Mahomes manage to get a pretty damn good pass to Marquise Brown, though, to start out this one, after literally breaking out of a sack attempt from Aiden Hutchinson, spinning back, recalibrating, resetting his feet, and throwing one over to Hollywood Brown. That turned into a fucking 20-yard game. Like, what the hell? That is literally just something he's going to pull out of his bag of tricks. You just have to count on it at this point. But even with that going down, I mean, Aiden Hutchinson would get the better of him later in the drive. And while Juju Smith-Schuster would yet again, with his strength, managed to get right near a first down after a 17-yard pickup, this Lions backup cornerback step up big time. Big time. It's damn crazy for the Lions to come into a game like this knowing that at least 5 of their main cornerbacks in this game were either on IR or dealing with some kind of injury that kept them out for this specific game. And it's like, geez, when you're that decimated, you think it would be a lot easier for the Chiefs to exploit that. And at least for this possession, that was not the case here. Like, Harper was in a zone, but he switched over to Xavier Worthy to go put a body on him. And before you knew it, he did a great job of swatting the ball, getting out in front of Worthy without doing anything that could draw a penalty and making a key play. But the Lions would face a similar thing in a weirder way to say the least. While Jahmyr Gibbs would get the job done, and even Jared Goff managed to pick up a first down with his legs, they themselves would get in 4th down, where Amon-Ra St. Brown, for one of the rare times in his overall career, managed to drop a pass. That's not something that typically happens at all. Not going to lie. But, you know, the Chiefs, even with that being the case, right, you got to take advantage of it. And Hollywood Brown would get them started with a great hole in the sideline before Kelsey himself managed to, yet again, do some more damage here. He already had drawn a penalty on Rock Ya-Sin, but then managed to get flipped by Rock Ya-Sin at the 1-yard line, literally hitting his head first on the ground. And it's like, definitely want to question that a little bit. But hey, what are you going to do, right? Nevertheless, before you knew it, Mahomes was scheming up a damn option. This was an incredibly good play call, though. The man pulled out a fake to make some of the defenders bite over to the other side of the field. Then it turned into a sort of option play, potentially, if Pacheco was open enough. But he had enough space where he could just take it himself and run it, and he did that, giving the Chiefs, the lead before the end of the half. With a solid defensive hold as well, forcing the Lions into a 3-and-out, despite them having a really good opportunity to get a damn score out of it anyways. The Chiefs would start off the third quarter right. They got Brashard Smith active already, and you would get Kelsey getting yet another catch in again. But it would be Marquise Brown on a little bit of a pitch play that would make yet another good score for this offense and give them a 20-10 lead. Major credit also goes to the line here, especially with Jalen Moore. I mean, they paid him in the offseason, and, broadcast teams stated that, hey, they got him as a backup, got to hold down the fort, and as a swing blocker. Well, what exactly he did on this play? I mean, that's it, right there. Got right outside, set off any potential rusher or backer trying to crash in on that side of the field. And before you knew it, with that block, that opened up the lane for Marquise Brown to run through and score. The line as a whole, especially when you look at it from a next-gen stats perspective, that mentioned that, this was their finest game in terms of actually protecting Patrick Mahomes since, 2022. And when you combine that kind of stuff, man, it is hard to stop the Chiefs once they can restore something like that. And if they could consistently do it. The Lions were held stagnant for most of this quarter. And they only had the one possession, but that would end in a punt. Then the Chiefs would undergo the same thing, pretty much. And I mean, hey, the Lions, with holding the Chiefs scoreless, did have themselves another shot. They would get David Montgomery set up on some pretty damn good screenplays on this drive alone, picking up 23 and 14 yards respectively before getting deeper into Chiefs territory. It would be here that Sam Laporta would snag one in the back of the end zone in the cleanest way imaginable for a touchdown to give the Chiefs a 20-17 lead. It put them on the offensive, though. They had to do something at this time. This is early in the fourth quarter, a 3-point ball game. But in a matter of damn near 5 minutes, the Chiefs would change that completely. Like I say, anytime you can get Xavier Worthy on an end around, on a lineman, out in space, you know that you've executed it correctly. Even if it did not pick up a first down. But he would do that on the next possession with a catch of his own. Marquise Brown, yet again, later on in the drive, would find the end zone for a touchdown. And then the Lions would be forced to settle for a punt following a huge loss of yardage on both Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield, Bob Bolden, and then a rare sack by Amenihu, even though Chris Jones managed to get the pressure there to help him convert the play in the first place. The Chiefs themselves would manage to get the ball back after all of this, and it was really just about running down the clock, making sure the Lions waste all their timeouts, which they would do, and then again doing whatever you can to get points. They'd settle for a field goal, and it's that's okay, as they took a 30-17 lead. The game would eventually be over right there, as the Lions would merely turn it over on downs, and the Chiefs would get the 30-17 win. As for the numbers, Mahomes had 3 touchdown passes and 257 yards on 73.3% completion. He is one of the top quarterbacks when it comes to career games, with 3 or more passing touchdowns as well. And also getting him in the history books. Isaiah Pacheco had 12 rushes for 51 yards. Glad to see that he at least found some form of efficiency. Again, they are going to need that. Travis Kelce would have a season-high 78 receiving yards on 6 catches. Juju Smith-Schuster had 3 receptions for 57 yards, and Hollywood Brown had 4 receptions for 45 yards, which also tying a career high in touchdown catches and 2. As for the Lions, Jared Goff completed 79.3% of his passes for 203 yards and 2 touchdown passes, but that doesn't tell the full story. I mean, between Karlaftis, between a motivated man in Jones willing to right his wrongs after the lack of effort in last week's loss to the Jags, the Chiefs' defense just made it far from easy on the Lions at all. And when they're not in that flow state, man, it is key to take them out of that early. And it is key to limit the explosive play. You could argue that the Lions would have to do the same thing for the Chiefs. But I mean, you know how dynamic the Lions' offense has been over the past few seasons. To allow them to shoot out a game with you would not have been smart at all on Kansas City's perspective, and they knew that coming into this game. They didn't give Jared Goff any room to operate, and again, even though he is good, once you decide to give him any sort of pressure whatsoever, he's not going to perform at his best. Jahmyr Gibbs would have 65 rushing yards on 17 carries. Jameson Williams would have 6 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown, while Samuel Porter would have 5 receptions for 55 yards and a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown also had 9 receptions for 45 yards. There was also something that happened after the game as well, where Brian Branch, the damn good Lion safety, I might add, got into it with Juju Smith-Schuster after he initially just failed, or I guess was salty about dapping up Mahomes, so he just chose not to. Gets over to Juju Smith-Schuster, and I guess Smith-Schuster trying to mock him, or genuinely trying to dap him up, holds out his hand to do the same thing, and catches a mean slap to the face from Branch. Not only did Branch then proceed to start a brawl between the two and sling him down to the ground, but he also would, after the game, discuss how, I guess, he was getting revenge for a dirty block that Smith-Schuster purportedly had in the game. And either way, whether or not that was the case, I'm not sure, but it's like, you cannot have that happen after the game. And you know it's bad for a player when even Dan Campbell, for a person who promotes that kind of physicality on their team, even he's saying something like that specifically after the game is not acceptable for a player to be doing. So I was like, damn. Like, okay. I mean, you're in quite the tough situation here. People were thinking that Brian Branch was probably going to get suspended in this case, and he would face suspension, as he would be suspended for a single game per Rappaport and Schefter yesterday. Tough. You just got to be able to control your emotions in that situation. That's always just something that you're told, man. Always. Alright, moving on to the Bills and Falcons, the first game of the doubleheader of Monday Night Football last night. And though I did not watch the very first few possessions of the former game here, they definitely started it out right when you can have Tyler Allgeier already getting himself a 21-yard rushing touchdown to open up the scoring in the game. Dawson Knox himself would respond with a touchdown catch of his own. Now, Kincaid, for context, was out with an injury in this game. But hey, this is a perfect showcase to remind y'all that, hey, again, Dawson Knox earlier in the decade was legitimately a threat before Kincaid got there. Kincaid can't help that he's that damn good. But hey, at the very least, Dawson Knox is still stuck around. You know, it would have been easy for him to just up and leave the team in the situation. Like, I mean, seriously. Gotta credit Josh Palmer, too, for setting the tone on that drive, getting a damn deep catch. Got the perfect amount of leverage on this post play on the D-back. No safety help back there, so Allen just rocketed that shit down there, and he got it going, and that ultimately set them up for the touchdown. Penix Jr. was surgical for the most part in this game, but this pass was a little awkward, I'm not going to lie to you. Now, luckily for him, Drake London, again, he has the catch radius to go out there and grab it, but the fact that he had to nearly get all the way down to the ground and dive for a 2-yard catch is kind of crazy, to say the least. Either way, the Bills' defense would at least force the Falcons into a 3-and-out with them being backed up that far. But the Falcons also got their own little bit of luck going after having that go down. Divine Diablo was literally trailing on Dawson Knox the whole time, but he's got his arms up like this the entire way. And the ball, even though it looked good from Josh Allen's viewpoint, it just happened to hit his arm, which would definitely give him a deflection, but it's like, damn, that seems more accidental than anything else. Nevertheless, they would also get a good effort from both Allen and Shakir on this third down here. The pressure was definitely in Josh Allen's face, but he just hung in there the entire time. He lobbed a pass over to Shakir on the sideline. Offer definitely was beat on the play, and it looked like he had a completion for a second. But upon further review, Shakir didn't get his second foot down at the right point of time. So he was ruled to have had an incomplete pass here. And they would go 3-and-out there. Man. Yo. The balance of this Falcons offense can be crazy when they allow it to happen. Like, when you have Penix Jr. being able to lean on Bijan Robinson in the way that he can and probably should, it opens up everything else. So when you get these solid chunks of yardage from Bijan Robinson, it shouldn't be a surprise why that's compounded by strong catches and throws from Penix Jr. to Drake London. And a different Bijan Robinson one, this time, again, a 22-yarder, just muscling and shifting all the way through the defense. Allow them to eventually, on 3rd and goal, get a touchdown to Drake London. I mean, he literally just extended his arm into the end zone. They gave him a curl route, but Taron Johnson's just way too small to do really anything about that. It's put in the correct area for Penix Jr., and it gave the Falcons a lead heading into the second quarter, where they just kept it going. Not only did they manage to, again, after a few solid plays from the Bills at least, get a stop on the Buffalo squad with Ruke Ahorhoro breaking up all the momentum here, and D. Alford also managing to make a really good play for once, getting a sack on Josh Allen. They would punt, and then Bijan Robinson is Bijan Robinson, man. That's all I gotta say. The motherfucker, quite literally, all right, he. Oh my goodness. I mean, yo, like, all it took was one gap. One gap. Just one shred of open space for Bijan Robinson. the man was out like a light, all right? Cole Bishop ended up being the last line of defense. He tried to get the right angle of pursuit on Bijan Robinson, but no. He tackled him so low that all Bijan Robinson had to do was really just push him off. And just like that, he was gone. No fucking chance. 81-yard touchdown in one play, just like that, to give the Falcons a commanding 21-7 lead. And they honestly had multiple chances to keep that going. Like, the Bills' offense couldn't do anything at all. Jimmy Cook, he was actually being held in check. You know, he had a few decent runs here, but they weren't letting him get any time to really make the decisions that he usually would make in the backfield before exploding through a gap with enough burst to make a defense pay. They were not allowing that at all. And then, Josh Allen was just getting full exposure from the Falcons defense, to say the least, man. And again, some of the rookies, yet again, just making an impact. You know, you saw Michael Walker here get multiple chances at making plays on Josh Allen. And you also had James Pearce Jr. consistently getting good pressure all night long in that backfield. That made Allen so damn uncomfortable to where Shavers on this third down was wide open, and you're thinking, like, hey, he could probably make that pass, and he missed mightily. So that forced that punt there. They would also then subsequently go 3 and out with deflections from D. Alford and A.J. Terrell Jr. on the next drive. Yeah, Keon Coleman was certainly not dealing with Colin Davis III in this game. And then they also managed to force an interception, a very errant throw, with Josh Allen just trying to hero ball it. And like I said, when this happened, he knows better than to throw late over the middle. Wasn't fully across his body, but you know that with Shakir being right in the center like that, there's always going to be a risk of a defender creeping right back in for the stop. And what do you know? D. Alford, yet again, worked his ass. But the Falcons would definitely come to have some thoughts about some of their last few drives here. I mean, they had progress and were stopped on downs in Buffalo's 33. They had to punt down the stretch of the first half, despite, again, having Buffalo very much in check right now. And then the loudest case of this in this entire situation. Man, I'm not going to lie. Drake London was literally just a few inches away from scoring a touchdown. All he had to do was keep his feet up. And again, I can't fully blame him for that. You know, his right foot went out of bounds as he was trying to dive in the end zone. It was so damn close that it's hard to really get mad at him for it. And it was a damn good effort too. I mean, he had all the leverage on Johnson at that point. So you're thinking that with a few seconds left, maybe it would have been wise for him to get out of bounds. You would certainly want him to get out so that, you know, in the event that he does get tackled, well, you still have a chance to get some points on the board at least. But no, he had the speed to get there. He had everybody beat. It was just a matter of, again, timing a jump correctly. That's all it came down to. And oh, how crazy that shit works sometimes. We were talking about a 14-point swing in between this and the next Bills possession. Because the Bills, even though by the end of the game, that didn't necessarily hurt them, man, it allowed the Bills to continue lingering around. Not only would the Bills manage to have one of their finest drives of the night, moving 73 yards down the field and allowing Jimmy Cook to actually start getting some solid runs in this game. Josh Allen would also get a nice dump off to Ray Davis out of the backfield. Xavier Watts on the fake got completely. Was left far out of position, and before you knew it, Ray Davis was just diving into the end zone for a touchdown himself. Neither offense after this point could really generate much of anything. I mean, it was legitimately defensive warfare at this point. You know, whether it be Ed Oliver Jr. and Shaq Thompson making things happen for the Bills defense here. Also, shout out to the rookie Deon Walker as well from Kentucky, making some good things happen as well. Or it be the entire front seven of that Falcons defense, man. They were not relenting anything. The Bills eventually turned the ball over on downs themselves. And then the Falcons, with a chance to get some scoring done, I mean, you had, again, Deon Walker put a stop to things. And then Gregory Rousseau on this fourth down, deep inside Bills territory, and pretty much the red zone, man, he leapt up tremendously with his 6'8" height and however long his arms are. Man, he just swatted that shit out of the air. And hey, the Ohio State man and Jordan Hancock recovered the kick, but nonetheless, that gave the Bills more life. And again, we're talking about this game completely being put away if the Falcons keep that positive momentum going on offense with any score of any kind to cap out the first half. Instead, you just get into this all-out struggle with a Bills team desperate to make something happen. Thankfully for them, their defense was so damn good and pressured Josh Allen so damn much to where, again, they were forced to settle for multiple 3-and-outs. And even though the Falcons themselves would go through the same thing, once it came time for them to get the ball back at the 6-minute mark, damn near the 7-minute mark, they figured that they needed to do something. It would be the Bijan Robinson show from here on out. Man, this 23-yard catch right here, dude, just shows you everything that Bijan Robinson has in his game, man. Not only would he manage to streak wide open on this wheel route for this game, while Michael Penix Jr. just got absolutely lit the fuck up. But man, you also had Drake London get a solid conversion for a first down here. And then they just continued to run the ball down their throats. Eventually got past the 2-minute warning, and you would have John Parker Romo, after the Bills used all their timeouts, get a field goal with 1 minute and 47 seconds left to essentially seal the game. You know, the Bills did try their hardest to drive down the field, but Zach Harrison, the Ohio State man, would subsequently deflect one of Josh Allen's passes, and it ended up in the hands of their linebacker, getting them the 24-14 upset, you could say, in this game. Man, for the Falcons, man, you gotta love it anytime you can have multiple players get over 150 yards from scrimmage. Like, Bijan Robinson was just a force to be reckoned with all night long. For example, there was a different 20-yard catch on the same drive that ended in a blocked field goal. This man was just weaving and knifing through the entire fucking defense, putting all these damn defenders on the fucking ground, stiff-arming niggas into oblivion. Bro, it was absolute fucking madness. And that is exactly what he was on all night long. In fact, not only was his overall first half pretty damn good, as it marked his 136 yards in half number one, the most in a first half for a Falcon since 2011. But he also finished with a tied for career high 170 rushing yards on 19 carries, 8.9 yards per carry, and a touchdown run. He also, with his receiving yards, added 68 on 6 catches, giving him a career-high 238 yards from scrimmage on 25 touches. Just an absolute force to be reckoned with, man. Michael Penix Jr. as well, again, with that kind of balance, that kind of faith in your running back, it opened things up for him, and he carved up that defense for the most part. There were some errant passes from him, but he got the job done, man. 62.5% completion and 250 passing yards and a touchdown to Drake London, of course, who led the way with 10 receptions for 158 yards. 10 catches are tied for the second most he's had in his career, but honestly, that made sense in a game like this. Man, his number was called, and he found a way more often than not to make some great stuff happen for this Falcons offense. It's like, damn, that's crazy. As for the Bills, Josh Allen looked incredibly inferior in this game. The 2 interceptions, again, one, it's a deflection. It's a desperation one at this point. But, man, overall, 180 yards, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, and 57.7% completion. What happened to some of the decision-making here? Now, again, you got to credit the Falcons' defense for implementing that kind of pressure on him. But, bruh, he just looked completely rattled and discombobulated out there. And it's that's rare to see in this day and age. But, hey, the Falcons made it happen. And with that, the Bills have now dropped 2 consecutive games. So that's certainly tough. At least James Cook III still had 87 rushing yards on 17 carries. Josh Palmer had 60 receiving yards on 2 receptions, but would be taken out of the game following a tackle from D. Alford that, I'm not going to lie, looked like a hip drop tackle. I guess they figured he didn't intentionally drop his hip to tackle him, but it looked incredibly fucking funky. So, I'm like, yeah, you might want to investigate that shit. And I mean, both teams would go through injuries as well, man. It wasn't just that. You had people dropping left and right. Between Jake Matthews and other linemen for this Falcons team, they had multiple guys go out with injury. Connor McGovern was out for a second. Terrell Bernard was out for a little bit. Man. But, hey, at the end of the day, the Falcons were able to overcome all of that and get themselves a solid upset here. Speaking of upsets, man, although I didn't know this shit when this game cut on, little did we know that the Jake Moody redemption arc would begin here. Yes, the Bears, for some odd reason, decided that it would be in their best interest to pick Jake Moody up off of waivers. Why? I couldn't fucking tell you. At the very least, he did get the scoring started on what was a pretty solid drive from Chicago with a field goal here. Their defense started out just as well. I mean, granted, Jaden Daniels was trying to settle into some things, and, they would have a decent balance of running here. Once they got the second down, I guess Daniels was feeling like, hey, he wanted to take a little bit of a shot. Fine. Yet, the pass was underthrown. Jaquan Brisker also did an excellent job of getting out in front of the pass, and he managed to work Jaden Daniels, giving the Bears the ball back. And that would lead to another field goal drive for the team, as Jake Moody would get his second one of the night yet again. Then, even more chaos for the Commanders would take place. Now, granted, they were playing in Landover. It was definitely raining around that area, so maybe you could attribute that to a little bit of wetness on the ball. But Krosky Merritt, unfortunately, would get his pockets picked by Montez Sweat in a slight measure of revenge for the former Commander. And, Kyler Gordon would get that fumble, give the Bears the ball yet again, and in just a matter of 5 plays, with a Dom Dunze with solid running from DeAndre Swift, and then strong runs back-to-back from both DJ Moore and Caleb Williams for the touchdown, all of a sudden, in a game where you would think that the Commanders would have probably won, and obviously, going back to last year's Hail Mary of Destiny, the Commanders have won it before. the Bears had a 13-0 lead spotted for them just like that. Interesting stuff, to say the least. I'm not going to lie. Jaden Daniels would pick it up, though. And, hey, at least when it came to him trying to run the ball, I don't know. Like, he's definitely got the speed, don't get me wrong. But there were multiple times where he just tried to test Tremaine Edmonds, and it's like, nah, I don't think you understand just how fast and athletic Tremaine Edmonds is compared to other guys. That shit did not fucking work. And he was buried in the backfield as a result of that. They would manage to get a bailout, though, because Nashawn Wright is just an absolute fucking cone. Like, not only did he get a fucking face mask penalty here, but as the Commanders were continuing to drive down, man, it would eventually get to a point where Jaden Daniels just carved up a pretty good dot over to the left boundary of the end zone to the veteran Chris Moore for a beautiful touchdown catch, man. Get multiple body parts in, secure it with one hand, all over Kyler Gordon. It was like, damn, all right, they're right back in this game just like that, down 13-7. Commanders definitely had another chance to score, especially when you consider that they forced the Bears to turn the ball over on downs here. With a great play from Frankie Louvu, might I add. Like, Rome Odunze kind of sits on his route, and I'm not going to lie, the ball was thrown exactly where it needed to be because Odunze was open. But, Louvu waited the thing out, and as soon as he tried to throw the ball, there he went with a solid fucking deflection. Just moving it right out of the way, right on the path of him to even think about catching the ball. From there, you would imagine that the Commanders could go down and at least score. A touchdown would be optimal, and it was looking that way as Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt got right back into it, despite the rookie mistake. But before you knew it, they were stopped short, and Matt Gay, because it's Matt Gay, he missed from 50 yards. And the score between a simple end of half possession and a 3-and-out from the Bears would be the same at the halftime mark. The Commanders would open up the scoring in the third quarter by getting a field goal of their own as Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt would get some more reps in. You'll love to see it. And again, despite just being a crazy fucking kicker, man, Matt Gay would manage to get a 53-yarder in at least. So, there you go. Right? Like, that's cool, I guess. It's also worth noting that this would be this intentional grounding on this possession, which makes sense. I don't know where the hell that pass is going. And ironically enough, like the Bills game was on at around the exact same time at a different point in the game, albeit, and a similar throw by Josh Allen took place. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? That's definitely not something you'd be seeing at multiple points in multiple games at around the exact same real time. But 'tis the madness sometimes, I guess. Nevertheless, the Bears will get the ball back and also have a little bit of trouble with Sanderson for just a second. They did get Sanderson on a penalty, and afterwards, they just started turning down the field. You had Rome Odunze get a solid catch in, and then Luther Burden III also got in a pretty good deep route for a 37-yard gain. But it would be Mike Sanderson who would just be a pest once more. He damn near intercepted Caleb Williams on this play. He had to try to get it over his head a little bit, but Mike Sanderson was in the right spot at the right time. And that's all that matters. This Odunze catch would have been a touchdown if not for the stupidity of their offensive linemen. And before you knew it, with Caleb Williams trying to make something happen yet again, who else but Von Miller and also Dorrance Armstrong would crash right in to sack him in the backfield, giving Jake Moody yet another shot at a field goal here. The Commanders would then go on a pretty good touchdown drive as while the combination of Mac Nichols and Krosky Merritt would help them get down the field for the most part, also a solid catch from Deebo Samuel Sr., it was Nahshon Wright's stupidity that allowed Luke McCaffrey to get open for a score. Like, yes, Deebo had gotten a catch in a similar way earlier in the drive, but Nahshon Wright was supposed to be accounting for Luke McCaffrey on that go route. He was supposed to be on that side of the field, and yet that man, as soon as the ball is snapped, he doesn't even worry about Luke McCaffrey at all. He just runs right down to Deebo trying to make a fucking play, and it's like, you know you just left somebody wide open out there, right? Easiest catch of Luke McCaffrey's life for a 33-yard touchdown to give the Commanders a lead. Jake Moody damn near fucked the game up. He damn near fucked the game up. Believe me. He tried. You know, even with him doing solid enough, getting a good amount of field goals in this game, you know exactly who that motherfucker is in the clutch. You know who that nigga is in the clutch, bro. He ain't gonna be on shit, bro. Like, we all know this. And, man, even with Monagai and Swift combining for some good gains to start off this drive, Moody got his fucking block kicked on fourth down. His kick blocked on fourth down. Like, oh my goodness. Absolute madness, man. Like, you cannot make this shit up when it comes to this kid, bro. You can't. Every time. And I'm calling it too. I was like, you know exactly what the hell he gonna pull off. What do you know? A fucking blocked kick. Cannot make it up. And from there, the Commanders, feeling that momentum from their special teams, I mean, they'd take it and they'd run with it, man. You know, Daniels started to carve this shit up. And you also had Jalen Lane, again, make it a little easier for him on this one. Like, the man was being pressed by Ramondre Stevenson. And yes, Stevenson is still trying to correct the wrongs he had in last year's game. So you know that he would be trying to play with a little more discipline in this one. And to an extent, I do understand him pressing Lane. But, this man Jalen Lane legitimately got this man stumbling, touching earth on a double move route. Right? And there was nothing he could do about that whatsoever. Ended up being a 37-yard gain. And from there, I mean, the rest was history, right? He found Jaden Daniels, that is, Zach Ertz in the back of the end zone on a beautiful fucking catch for a 6-yard touchdown. 8-point lead at this point. You're still relatively early in the fourth quarter here, but the Bears knew they had to respond sooner rather than later to this, and they would get the memo, albeit in the weirdest way imaginable. Like, it was literally all DeAndre Swift. Not only did he manage to get a decent tone-setting run, but he also got out in space, in the flat, and then managed to break a tackle attempt from Quan Martin, the safety, and run free for a 55-yard touchdown catch. And it's like, that is where he is at his best as a receiver out of the backfield. He is not a running back that can run in between the lines. You've got to get him out in space, utilize him outside, utilize him in the passing game. Do not try to make him a legitimate rusher of the football. It's not going to work for you. And what do you know? They made it a 2-point ball game. They would fail on the 2-point conversion, though. So that made things even more interesting for the squads here. And while both defenses would hold up, it would take a rough mistake from Jaden Daniels to allow the Bears to get a last gasp of life. I mean, granted, first of all, their defense was, again, just exceptional throughout the night. And it started off well with Robinson and Dexter Sr. getting a good sack on Jayden Daniels in the backfield already. But then you had Jeremy McNichols get a great first down pickup. He's got open space and Tremaine Edmonds is trying to converge on him. So he runs away from him, allows the block from Ertz to set up, and then just adds in a little more extra effort to reach over the first down marker. From there, the game was looking as if it was going to end, especially when you had them get in this 3rd and 1 situation here. But before Jayden Daniels could even think about getting the play underway, he bobbled the football. It was definitely moist because, again, of the rain, but man, an exchange like that is so tough. So, without full control, he tried to pitch it over to Krosky Merritt, and that failed just as much, allowing the Bears to pounce back on the ball and give them a shot at the final possession, which is exactly what they would do smartly. Now, you can't really control a wet ball falling out of your hands, but if you're the Bears in this situation, knowing that just happened, you still couldn't be scared of, running the ball here. That was going to have to be the plan. You needed to try to make sure that the Commanders could not get the ball back on this possession. And with run after run from DeAndre Swift, ironically enough, they would actually prevent that from happening. That's the thing with Jake. Even though a field goal like that should be pretty easy, man. You've seen this man, Jake Moody, miss in from close. You've seen him miss from deep before. You could put that man anywhere on the fucking field, and he's going to find a fucking way to sell it. That's just how this goes. But when it came time for him to lock in, even though there was a little bit of a curve, a sneaky-ass curve that could have led to a fucking miss, he did manage to get the field goal in and give them the game winner, allowing the Bears to walk out with a 25-24 upset as well. I don't think there were many people saying they could win this game. So, from that perspective, they definitely got away with one as well. Granted, they had the game winner or game sealing block against Daniel Carlson and that Raiders unit before the bye week. But, hey, again, if you can constantly win games like this, it does help to start establishing something here, as I said then. For the numbers, 58.6% completion is a little low for Caleb Williams, but he did have 252 yards and a touchdown pass, while also adding a touchdown run and -2 yards for some reason on the ground. I don't know about that. DeAndre Swift, weirdly enough, led all receivers with 2 receptions for 67 yards and a touchdown, which does make sense. He also had 14 rushes for 108 yards. In terms of pure rushing numbers, that's got to be one of the better days he's had as a runner of the football. Especially as a Bear. With the Eagles, that makes sense. But as a Bear, man, it has been a struggle for him since he got there. I can look back, but yeah, Well, ain't that something? Damn, I stand corrected. Ironically enough, as I'm looking here, from a number standpoint, this is his most prolific game as a Bear since last season's matchup against the Commanders. Had 18 rushes for 129 yards against them last year. Maybe it's just something about him facing off against his team then. But even with that being the case, it's man, you need to find that shit more consistently, man. Or they got to go out and get somebody else. We can't keep having this run around with you, bro. Luther Burden III had 4 receptions for 51 yards. DJ Moore had 3 receptions for 42 yards. And Romadunze had 2 receptions for 32 yards. As for the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, 211 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception on 73.1% completion. Although, granted, it was pretty impressive that before that grounding penalty as well, they mentioned that essentially none of the passes he threw to that point he'd even touched the ground. 9 completions or so in the interception. Like, that is incredibly insane, but of course that did not last throughout the entire game. He also had 52 rushing yards on the ground, and Krosky Merritt had 61 rushing yards on 17 carries. Chris Moore had 3 receptions for 46 yards and a touchdown. Zach Ertz had 6 receptions for 43 yards and a touchdown. And Jalen Lane and McCaffrey had at least a catch each for over 30 yards, with McCaffrey obviously having the touchdown in the game. Shout out to Tremaine Edmonds for also getting 13 tackles in this game as well. And I mean, hey man, definitely an unfortunate turn of events for the Commanders. But honestly, again, when you factor in that they had a Hail Mary go their way last season, I mean, damn. Like, that is just how the game goes sometimes. You're going to win some of those. You're going to be on the right side of those when it comes to history, and you're going to be on the wrong side of those when it comes to some history as well. It's not always going to go your way in that regard. So, like, that's just what it is, man. Alright, that is all the game action that I watched. To move on into some of the other action, this damn Broncos and Jets game, yeah, it's a fucking melt session, bro. Like, oh my gosh, dude. I mean, man, from one standpoint, man, alright, you're telling me that different people in London, obviously it's a different point of time, with time zones and everything, man, they wake up, get out of their flats and the like to go and see this game. You have people watching this live on NFL Network early in the morning, and you expose these niggas to an international game in which the only touchdown score came from Bo Nix literally throwing it to a fucking fullback in Nate Atkins. Are we fucking serious right now? Like, there's no shot that that shit is the case. They also keep on throwing around this stat that they combined first downs between both teams accounted for 7 fewer than any total first downs between two teams in any international game in NFL history. What the fuck is that? Alright? For one, you have to credit the Broncos defense. Alright? Anytime you can go and sack a quarterback 9 times, you know that you're doing your job. But the fact that these niggas were still about to lose because of the fact that they got penalized for a, I guess, sort of infraction that ended up leading to a safety in the first place. And for the life of them, could not drive down the fucking field for possessions on end up until one of their final ones to go and get a field goal to retake the lead after being down 11-10. That shit probably would have been a fucking scoregami if that would have stood. And it's like, that's still kind of ugly. Like, dude, come on, man. Why the fuck is it that a New York team is always involved in one of these tank-style games, by the way? What is it with this shit, man? What is going on right now? Because we've definitely seen tank games between the Giants and Patriots before. We've seen the Giants and Jets tank off against each other. What the fuck is this? What is this? This is a new level of just horrifically bad offensive production for both teams. I don't even care how much more yardage the Broncos had. But at least they can say for themselves that, like, hey, we had a decent amount of balance in this game. You know, the rushing game, only 78 yards and 3 yards per carry ain't much to speak of. Bo Nix as well could have played so much better than this, but you'll still take 174 yards and a touchdown pass on 63.3% completion. And again, when your defense is doing this to the point where, just, man. First of all, Nick Bonito, would it be a stretch to say that he's in Defensive Player of the Year conversation? The man is already leading the NFL through 6 games with 8 sacks. He's definitely worth the deal that he just got. And he's already exceeding expectations damn near. It's fucking crazy. He also had a sack in this game. And it wasn't just him. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different players in this game accounting for sacks. Jonathan Cooper himself had 2 sacks. The Ohio State man himself getting in the action. And then obviously the coverage on the back end is not anything to play about as well. It was just that kind of performance for this Broncos defense. But you also can't discount how bad the Jets are offensively. Anytime you get in a situation where on the very first possession of the game, the Jets became the team. How do I word this? They forced a fumble in this possession. And with that, they became the latest team ever in NFL history to record their first takeaway of the season. The latest team at the latest time in a regular season to do that. What the fuck is that incompetence? But again, they got it done, right? They have a short field to work with. Okay, they were at the Broncos' 37-yard line. It would be easy for them to go down and score a touchdown, right? No. Even though they had a lead for a brief period of time, you want to know just how many combined yards that they gained on these possessions? 4 combined yards in cases where you not only had field position advantage from a free turnover that you just got, but they also had a dynamic kick return from Kene Nwangwu, who's back and healthy, that landed them a starting field position of possession at the 24 fucking yard line of the Broncos. And you only move a yard? If you're going to continue to settle for field goals in that situation, I'm sorry, you're not going to win a game that way. You're just not going to. And their offense, again, just continued to be so atrocious. I mean, hey, at least they found a little bit of life on this possession, but even without watching it live, they've constantly talked about how Aaron Glenn just bungled this end of half situation that prevented them from getting any points at all. Damn. Okay, you're driving a little bit and you use your timeouts just fine. Okay. But why is it that after this 6-yard catch from Josh Reynolds, you decided to fucking let 30 or more seconds run off the fucking clock and go into halftime? I guess I saw something that Aaron Glenn said, essentially stating that, hey, we're going to get the ball in the second half. What kind of punk shit is that? Do you know how little faith you have to have in your offense to go ahead and say some shit like that? They would score a field goal in the second half, first possession in the second half. But, that is just a testament to how bad they've been. To where the coach, again, after what should have been an obvious attempt to at least advance down the field and get more points on the board, ends with you just submitting completely because you were clearly sick and tired of something. And Garrett Wilson was certainly not happy about it. He also will have to deal with it because in a game that produced one of his lowest outputs in his NFL career with just like 3 catches for 13 yards. He also got hurt and is going to miss the next 2 weeks and some change with an injury, unfortunately. But honestly, and I'm not going to be disrespectful to an injury or anything, but damn, you would think that multiple people on this team were banged up with how anemic their offense looked. -10 net passing yards and 45 actual passing yards on 52.9% completion, Justin Fields. Now, again, we're taking into account some sacks here, and not all those sacks are going to be his fault. This offensive line needs a tremendous amount of work. We know that. But it is just such a bad look individually that it's like I'm literally grappling still to this point with how to defend that shit. And I don't know how to. I don't know how. You can't ask me to. I don't fucking know. That's some next level ineptitude. And it's like, yo, the performance was so bad to where people, even with the decision that Aaron Glenn made at the end of the half, you have people literally asking him whether or not Justin Fields is still the number 1 guy. I get a notification through my phone yesterday telling me that Justin Fields is going to remain the starter. I'm like, of course he should remain the fucking starter, right? Why is this being taken into question? And then you see that and you're like, oh, okay. It's just such a tough spot for a Jets fan to be in. The run game also wasn't much to speak of. You know, they try, but 2.9 yards per carry is also very bad. When Josh Reynolds is your leading wide receiver and he only had 25 yards in this game, you have more than your fair share of fucking problems as well. And again, all this to say that the Jets are still winless. The only winless team in the NFL to this point. Also, with that output, they had their 3rd fewest amount of net yards in a game ever as a franchise. Just an absolutely embarrassing game. If you're Sean Payton, you'll live with winning this, but from an overall standpoint, you know, not to really cast any shade on the defense, they more than earned it. But from an offensive perspective, from a special teams perspective, man, you shouldn't be too proud of this shit. You should not be too proud of this shit, bro. And for Aaron Glenn, man, hey, bro, oh boy, oh my gosh, they need everything. Call in as many reinforcements as possible, because I don't know what the fuck this shit was. I don't know how to explain that, man. I really don't. All right. Moving on to the Colts and the Cardinals. Essentially, without Kyler Murray in this one, the Cardinals would try to make this as competitive as possible, but in reality, the Colts are still just a freight train in their own right. The Colts would win 37-21, 31-27 rather, and improve to their best start since 2009, with Daniel Jones continuing to carve up defenses and Jonathan Taylor continuing to be an absolute beast. Daniel Jones had 2 passing touchdowns and an interception on 73.3% completion with 212 passing yards. Also had 20 rushing yards on the ground and a touchdown as well. Meanwhile, Jonathan Taylor had 21 rushes for 123 yards and a touchdown of his own. Tyler Warren led the receiving unit with 6 receptions for 63 yards and a touchdown. Alec Pierce had 2 receptions for 48 yards. And Josh Downs had 6 receptions for 42 yards and a touchdown as well. As for the Cardinals, man, Brissett, again, is going to be a player that does okay, but, he is the quintessential game manager. He's not going to do enough for you to win the ball game, and you can't expect that. He threw for 320 yards and had 61.4% completion, but he did throw 2 touchdowns and an interception as well. It doesn't help that they still couldn't establish the rushing attack as well. Just 3.7 yards per carry is not really all that good. And I find it crazy that the week after he made one of the stupidest decisions imaginable, they literally pulled out all the different stops instead of using Dave Mercado, man. He only ended the game with a single run, while this night person had 11, and Michael Carter Jr. had 9. Zay Jones had 5 receptions for 79 yards. Trey McBride had 8 receptions for 72. And Michael Wilson had 4 receptions for 44 yards. Tough sledding, to say the least. But, honestly, comparative to how the Dolphins have been going out, yeah, probably doesn't compare. They would face off against the Chargers and just lose it in the most Dolphins way imaginable. Apparently, as I was kind of watching other games, they got different tickers up for the other NFL action around the league, and they showcased that, hey, there's a score alert here. Darren Waller scores a receiving touchdown at the end of the game, damn near, to give the Dolphins a temporary lead. And the fact that Darren Waller has been doing this shit is actually fucking crazy to see. He is actually back, truly, right? And you're thinking that they could close up the game in that situation after going on a 13-play and 82-yard drive. Yet, with 46 seconds left, all because they can't guard Lat McConkey, the Chargers move right down the field. They let that man slip through tackle attempt after missed tackle attempt for 42-yard gain, all right, to get the Chargers deep into field goal range, essentially. Do you not know that you're dealing with Cameron Dicker on the other side? Do you know that he can make that shit in his fucking sleep? And after you damn near seal the game, your defense doesn't even hold. But again, that makes sense when you don't have cornerbacks to truly guard anybody. Still, even though they got that to go down, you'd have Cameron Dicker make a 33-yard field goal to give the Chargers the win, essentially. This Tagovailoa interception didn't end up mattering all that much, but it didn't help either. And in fact, interesting thing to note about, I'll get into the Chargers numbers first. For the Chargers, Herbert had 264 passing yards on 76.3% completion and 2 touchdowns. Kimani Vidal, in place of Amarian Hampton, had a tremendous day. 18 rushes and 124 yards for the Troy man. Lat McConkey had 7 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. It looks like they used Oronde Gadsden II a little more as well, which I would like to see. 7 receptions and 68 yards for him also. So that's pretty damn good. Vidal also added in a receiving touchdown on 14 receiving yards and 3 catches. As for the Dolphins, Tua, after the game, had the nerve to address, what he viewed as a lack of accountability in terms of attending and showing up to player meetings prior to games, essentially. He commented on that and had his own strong opinions about it. It seemed like he was definitely getting frustrated about it. Don't get me wrong. You could definitely hear it in his voice. But it just came off as a little weird to most people, honestly. And I guess what I would say about it is that it's Should that be happening? If that is the case, no. But it feels like something that could be handled behind the scenes. And that falls on either you as a leader or Mike McDaniel as a coach on not getting on players for, attending to those things, if that is true. Why do you feel a need to go all out and just expose this to the media? I don't really get that, personally. And then, also, when you think about it, it's like, even if that was the case, it's like, winning does, in fact, cure all, but when you think about it, naturally, he's going to be a bit salty and frustrated at the fact that they've consistently been on the losing end. So maybe that's just some stuff that's been built up over some time that then led to commentary like this. This isn't the first time this season, in fact, that he's gone out and addressed something about the team. It's not a new thing for him. And again, I do question that it's like, if they were winning more games of theirs, would he even bother to say anything about this to the media at all? Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think he'd be calling them out like this. At least on a public scale where we can see it. That would not happen if they were winning more games. But alas, again, they're 1-5 right now. So of course that's going to happen. And I mean, even though, it's not all on him per se as to why they're in this situation right now, the performance in this game, at least, yeah, you're the quarterback. I guess you can make those comments if you want, but following a performance in which he had 205 passing yards on 65.6% completion, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions, my boy, you might want to cool that down just a little bit. Now, ironically enough, even with that happening, I mean, the balance was kind of there. De'Von Achane, his best rushing game of the season, with 16 rushes on the ground for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 49-yard one. He also added 22 receiving yards through the air. It's definitely a good all-around game for him. Jalen Waddle also had 6 receptions for 95 yards. But alas, that was not enough. And I don't know, if you have Tagovailoa going out and doing something like this, with McDaniels also having to come out and give his own spiel on it, you do have to question if there is a rift brewing there. And if the Dolphins are feeling a little bit of the heat to try and let him walk. I'm not sure if they would, per se. But this might be creeping in their mind a little bit. Because something has to give at some point, man. The Patriots would beat the Saints. I honestly wouldn't be fooled by the score. They handled their business pretty convincingly. In fact, majority of their hardcore scoring, and I guess overall for the game, it all came in the first half. To be completely honest, you got to credit both the Saints and Patriots defenses for just holding each other in check. They both held each other to just a field goal in the second half. So that's definitely major. But yeah, the storyline in this one, man, Drake may have a fucking game, bro. All right. 18 to 26 passing, 69.2% completion, and 261 yards with 3 touchdown passes. He, with this game right here, would actually, per this stat right here, become the 4th player with, at least, let's see. Yeah. The 4th, I guess, passer in NFL history with at least 200 or more passing yards and a 100 passer rating or higher in 5 consecutive games at the age of 24 or younger, with Patrick Mahomes, Dan Marino, and Dak Prescott. Great company for him to be in right now. Like, he is truly taking that step up this season. And you gotta respect it from that standpoint, man. Truly. Like, again, this game wasn't love, but man, like, that is just great work to see from him, to say the least, man. The rushing game wasn't much to speak of, but I mean, hey, at least they started to involve Travion Henderson a little more, even though Ramondre Stevenson had 13 rushes for 18 yards. I don't know why they keep trusting him, bro. For the life of me, I don't get it. Kayshon Boutte, Booty rather, 5 receptions for 93 yards and 2 touchdowns for him, while Demario Douglas had 3 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown. As for the Saints, Spencer Rattler had 227 passing yards on 76.9% completion. Not the worst, but it just couldn't generate that much when it came to actually finishing off drives. The only time that happened was with a Taysom Hill touchdown run. And honestly, I'm shocked they didn't involve Taysom Hill a little more, given what he typically does. But hey man, fuck it. You know, like it is what it is. Whatever. Nevertheless, man, Chris Olave would have 6 receptions for 98 yards. Alvin Kamara would have 5 receptions for 45. And Rashid Shaheed would have 4 receptions for 28 yards as well. Moving on to the Titans and Raiders. And the biggest storyline out of this shit right here is honestly what would happen after. After this game, in which the Raiders did win 20-10, the Titans would fire Brian Callahan, which does make sense. Like, he's just not a good coach that deserves to have job continuity or security at this point. You know, man, already getting off to a 1-5 start this season. Man was 4-19 in his career, and we're just talking about laughable decision after laughable in-game decision from him. He is just not cut out to do this shit. It is just as simple as that. And it might not turn around for Cam Ward immediately with the hiring of a different coach. But, yo, like, he was just legitimately, between a combination of a lack of development of the overall team, bro, you are making Cam Ward just look atrocious out there. And it's like, it makes sense with the number 1 overall pick. You're not going to be the most well-established team. But my goodness, man. You got to give him something. You got to give him a fucking chance. And you weren't even doing that. I was like, damn, dog. I mean, shit. Like, it was just a matter of time at this point. If he would have stayed there any longer, man, I don't know how many players could deal with this shit, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, was it a little bit of a tank game? Yes. Like, neither one of these teams are that good right now. But at the end of the day, Geno Smith was able to lead the team to victory, having a little more experience under his belt, and also just having at least a few more weapons around him, even with Brock Bowers being hurt. Even with that didn't end up affecting them all that much. Also, shout out to Devin White for actually still being a part of NFL and having 9 tackles, a sack, a TFL, an interception, and a pass deflection. It's an interesting all-around game for him, to say the least. As for some other overall numbers here, Van Jefferson had 4 receptions for 75 yards for the Titans as well. And again, yeah, like, I don't know what they would do in terms of getting an interim coach, but yeah, it was just time for Brian Callahan to get the fuck out of there, man. The Bengals with Joe Flacco had a chance to do the most hilarious thing ever. I'm certain to you that if Joe Flacco would have managed to beat the Browns, be on the Browns and beat the Packers as a Cleveland player, and then beat the Packers yet again just a few weeks later as a Bengal, that definitely would have set some kind of historical precedent. Because I don't think I can recall a time where a member of a certain team beat one opponent and then managed to get traded to another team that played that opponent in the year and then beat them as well. That would have warranted true ownership, and that certainly would have fucked the morale of the Packers up. I'm not even going to lie to you. Because he already made you lose one questionable game this season. There was absolutely no shot he was going to make you be on the losing end of another, right? Well, right. Although it took a Herculean fourth quarter from the Packers to even get to that point, because they had another slow start to the game offensively, especially with Jordan Love throwing a fucking interception to Geno Stone on the first damn drive. But you know what? At the end of the day, the Packers did still win 27-18. Moving into the numbers, Jordan Love had 259 passing yards on 73.1% completion with a touchdown pass and that aforementioned interception. Josh Jacobs just continues to be an all-around threat for this team. He had a combined 23 touches for 150 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Matthew Golden also led the way for the Packers in terms of receiving yards with 3 catches for 86 yards. And Romeo Doubs had 5 receptions for 55, while Tucker Kraft had 2 receptions for 43 yards and a touchdown catch as well. As for the Bengals, Joe Flacco, again at this stage, while he didn't do enough to lose or win you the game, per se, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns. He didn't turn the ball over. He was pretty passive in terms of, making reads, I would have to imagine. Especially when you take into account he had just 4.9 passing yards an attempt. And while Jamar Chase did all right, T. Higgins also had a game as well. They had 10 receptions for 94 and a touchdown and 5 receptions for 62 yards, respectively. It's just not threatening enough against that damn Packer defense. And I mean, even with that being the case, to have Joe Flacco be a man who's going to constantly stand in the pocket because he's not going to move around, that just leaves him like a sitting duck. And the Packers are certainly able to take advantage of that, even if you see that they just logged a sack in this game. And, that'll do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next video where I will address other developments from this week. Peace.